Hey guys, OG Albani here, bringing you guys a different type of video today. Well, it will be pretty similar, right? It's going to be a draft league movie. We're going to be going over our DFL run. The DFL is the Draft Farm League. If you guys are, tapped into the Charlotte scene, the two big main tournaments in, the team tournament scene are DPL and DCL. DPL, the Draft Premier League, and DCL, the Draft Champions League that Smogon runs. Well, the DFL is the Draft Farm League, and that essentially means I didn't get drafted in DCL. I haven't gotten drafted a couple times in a row now. I believe I got my shot, quote unquote, in DPL, not this most recent season, but the season before. I was picked up in mids by L5's team, and unfortunately we didn't perform. We went 0-2, and since then, once you get your shot and you don't make the most of it, it's very hard to get drafted again. So DFL, I was able to get picked up by, I believe our team is Ballad of Dragons, coached by Nathan, a money guy. They gave me a shot, drafted me in this auction, and I'm kind of using this tournament as an opportunity to prove myself and prove that I am good enough to play in those bigger tournaments like DCL, DPL, things like that. So I kind of want to go over our run a little bit more in depth than we typically do. What I plan on doing for this guy is Sunday the 20th. Right now, I'm playing my game later today for week 1 against Shade. You'll see right here. I want to go over the team pretty in depth, let you know my thoughts on the matchup, things like that in the moment so that I remember it fresh. We'll go over the game immediately and then I'll cut to the next week. Obviously this is before any of this even happens. So I don't know how I'm doing. I don't know how I did in this run. Hopefully, unless I go winless, we'll probably upload it. So I kind of want to take you guys through the process of me trying to get better and trying to prove myself and things like that. So if you guys do enjoy this video and enjoy this type of content, it's a little bit different than usual. Sure, drop a like in the video as well as sub to the channel. On our way to 10K subs, and I'd really appreciate your help in getting me there. And yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna take a look here. Week 1, we actually got matched up against Shade. I forget what team Shade's on. I know that they're the consensus other best team. I think our team's pretty darn good too. But Shade is their best player, quote unquote, right? He went for the highest bid in the auction. I was actually second highest bid. So me and him, top 2 players, pricing wise, not skill wise necessarily, but pricing wise, going up against each other in week 1. We're likely going to be game 8, which will be the deciding game, whether or not we tie the series or win the series. I believe it is at this point. So lots of stakes in this one. Playing against the other highest guy in week 1 is kind of fun. It's pretty cool. I kind of gets the monkey off your back early, playing, preferably the, toughest guy in the tournament. Shade, I've played before. I played them in Spring Seasonal. If you remember the video that we uploaded, Spring or Summer Seasonal, whatever the most recent season was, the one with Hoopa and Enam, they were actually the person who knocked me out and moved on to top 32 when we lost them 1-0 in a pretty darn close game. So I'd love to get my revenge here. We have a pretty fun matchup. You can see the team that I'm using this week is a really fun one. I like our SV teams a lot. I think they're actually all a lot of fun. But it's Iron Valiant, Dio Speed, Terra Goldango, Terra Ogrepon Cornerstone, Tentacruel Mandibuzz, Piloswine, and Electros. It's kind of that double mid-tier Terra idea with 2 top-tier guys that are Terra banned in Valiant and Dio Speed. Goldango, pretty fun guy, becomes really, really nasty when it can change his defensive typing and kind of flip the matchup on his head, and you're going to see that's very, very important in this battle in particular. And Corner's another fun option. Those Terra Rock Ivy Cudgels do so much freaking damage. So it's a cool, more offensive option here. I think it's really cool. You can see the team my opponent has, really, really bulky, spikes balance oriented team with Palafin kind of as the main focal piece with a lot of momentum and hazards and passive chip and things like that. We have Terratorm, which is really, really annoying. I've played a lot of different variants in mocks, whether it be poison, steel, flying, water. I mean, a ton of different variants in this. Definitely could be very, very annoying, both offensively and defensively. I played a lot of Assault Vest, but I played a nasty plot 1 recently in a mock at the end of the week, and it gave me a lot of trouble in this game. Tinglu, always annoying. Tinglu Petron, I think, is the best defensive core in Pokemon Draft League right now. Great synergy there. Ogerpon is okay into me. I actually wouldn't be surprised to see Ogerpon not show up with between the likes of Goldango, Mandibuzz on our team. Cyclozar is actually really good to me, not in the traditional sense of being an AV spinner, defensive pivot, spin F pivot. I actually think offensive is going to come. The combination of Draco Meteor Overheat is really strong on my team pre-Terra and post-Terra. Once I Terra my Goldango, Draco becomes really, really free into our team. It can run an mixed Iron Head too to hit Valiant and revenge it from pretty decently high up there, and then U-turn to get on out of there. I don't think they're going to bother trying to spin in this matchup when I do have the Goldango, at least pre-Terra, but I do think offensive is really, really strong here, and it's the thing I struggle with. Belly Bolt's annoying. I play mostly a lot of dual screens, but getting a knock on that early is always going to really help, and you'll see our team kind of does allow for that. Probopass, I've never tested against, I'm not too worried about it. And then Palafin. Palafin's really scary. I played Scarf, I played Band, I played a little bit of Bulk Up, but mostly Band. If you look at our team, our water resists into Palafin are not very good. Tentacruel, not a great check. We are one Zen headbutt away from just freaking dying. And it's not like Tentacruel takes wave crashes very well. So definitely a lot of very, very scary things. But let's kind of take a look at the team. Exactly what we're rocking with. We'll kind of start with our lead in Electros. I kind of just have the Poke paste up. Our lead is Eel here. Very often the leads I'm seeing are either Torn to guarantee that Terra early, especially on Assault Vest variants, or Palafin. Either one of those lets me kind of lead Eel advantageously and get a very strong knockoff here. Knocking off Tinglu's leftovers or Citrus Berry is really, really powerful in this game. I absolutely love that possibility. We've also knocked off Belly Bolts a lot with this set in particular. We have knockoff Super Fang to really, really punish things like Tinglu, thinking they can come in for free on us. We obviously are here to check Torn. Mostly we're max for def AV. Kind of here to come in, U-turn out. Discharge is nice to bait Paras into like those Terra Steel Torns. If they do decide to stay in to get a knockoff on me or whatever it may be, we can really punish that. It's also nice for punishing Petra, things like that, because we don't do a lot of damage in this game, right? Really, we're here to kind of just disrupt. Super Fang, knockoff, U-turn, things like that. We are sassy with 0 speed, allowing us to underspeed things like non-min speed, Tinglu, non-min speed, Belly Bolt, really the entire team. I guess I actually don't know if I underspeed Probopass, but I never tested into it. I'd figure it out in the game. I'll figure it out in the game if it comes. I'm not too worried about it. But that slow U-turn is actually incredibly nice. It's going to make it to where if something like Tinglu is in and I want to get slow momentum out into whatever I want to switch into, I don't have to take a Ruination on the switch in, right? It also gets me more free switch-ins to things like Iron Valiant, whereas maybe I don't want to hard in on Iron Valiant in case they click a really strong Heavy Slam or click Ruination, right? I'm Life Orb, so I don't want to take that. So I really like Eel as a lead in this game. Beyond that, offense-wise, we have Iron Valiant, really great breaker here with Life Orb. Knockoff with Psychic blows up Petra. This is honestly one of the most powerful Pokemon in this matchup. If it comes in and clicks the right button, it is basically a KO. My opponent doesn't have great counterplay to it. Things like Belly Bolt are okay at switching into it, depending on the set. We are mixed here. Moonblast Close Combat, Psychic, Knockoff, pretty simple stuff. Hits really hard if we can position it correctly. And pairs from Electros can really help out in that. If we get like a Discharge pair off on Torn, it's a great way of being able to kill that thing. That's why I'm really expecting Assault Vest. I think AV is like very likely. AV Poison is the set that worries me the most. Then we have a Mandibuzz here. It's going to be Knock, U-turn, Defog, Taunt. Is max Fizz Def. This thing has a couple jobs. One is to kind of pivot in on Tinglu. Obviously, we don't do a lot of damage to it, but again, we can either knock it off if our Electros isn't able to. We can taunt it, prevent it from getting more hazards, things like that, and we can always fog away the hazards. Yes, I understand there is a Defiant Ogerpon, but we're a great check to Ogerpon, and we can always kind of just slow U-turn out on that guy. Plus, they don't really know what my set is if I'm like foul play on this, depending on like, the position we're in. It's kind of hard for them to click that. We also have Ogerpon Cornerstone, another offensive piece, but really here mostly as a spiker. It is Cudgel, Woodhammer, Spikes, and U-turn. I know Woodhammer seems kind of counterintuitive with Sturdy, but there weren't any games where Sturdy was coming super heavy into play. Plus, I was missing a lot of power-ups in games where like hitting power-up was needed. Like I needed to hit a power-up to revenge Palafin. I needed to hit a power-up to kill Tinglu, whatever it may be, and I kept missing. So I figured having a safer option of Woodhammer was important. Plus, I'm really only clicking it on those Pokemon. Ivy Cudgel is pretty darn spammable otherwise, especially if they're not Steel Torn. So I like that a lot. Spike is here to get that up early. Petron's pretty likely to come in. And after that, U-turning out on the Petron is going to be really clutch for kind of our main like breaker and facilitator in this game in Deoxys. This is like the power of Deoxys in my mind, is the ability to be so fat while still outpacing everything by a mile. We are max HP, modest, max special attack, and we outspeed Torn by a good amount. And because our team is so like balance heavy, there wasn't really any Scarf or someone outpace. Like Ogerpon, I'm not too worried about Scarf wise. Palafin, I think, is just going to jet punch me anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. And the other guys, I just kind of outpace. It's a very slow team. So Nasty Plot, 3 attacks is really powerful here. Ice Beam is a reliable means of revenging things like Cyclozar, especially gets +2. Ogerpon, Tornadus if it's Terra Flying, things like that, and Tinglu if it's weakened, but Focus Blast is a great way of guaranteeing a 2-hit KO on things like Tinglu at +2, or guaranteeing an Oko on like a Torn if it's like Terra Steel and we get up to +2. So I think that's really nice. Psycho Boost is super strong at +2, and that's the cool thing about like Tinglu being the pivot. If it switches in and takes a Psycho Boost, I still get to keep my +2, right? And then I can just Focus Blast into Focus Blast or Focus Blast into Ice Beam depending on rolls and how healthy it is and things like that. Or maybe I even like Ice Beam into Ice Beam, right? So I think that's pretty clutch. Really strong Mom here. Really annoying for them to deal with if we can find the position to get it in. And I think our like triple momentum core of Eel, Ogre and Mandibuzz does a great job at doing that. And we kind of have like the centerpiece of the team and Terra Goldango. This is Terra Water. It is max Fizz Death. Max. We are kind of giving up the illusion of being able to outspeed Petron. I think if Petron wants to be fast, it's going to be fast. And I'm okay with underspeeding it. Especially once I Terra Water, I really don't take much damage from it once I'm at max HP. Max HP, max defense is great at taking hits from the Palafin in particular, right? Like Choice Band is so strong to me. I really want to have a defensive answer to that. But it's also really nice at just naturally taking hits from this team. Things like Torn, things like Tinglu, I just kind of set up all over, right? Things like Ogerpon Pre-Terra, I'm really good against. Things like Cyclozar in general, even if it's Life Orb, I'm pretty good. As long as it's decently healthy, I can recover off a Life Orb Jaco pretty comfortably and deal with them that way. Now, we do have to be careful about when we are tearing and how. Both the likes of Ogerpon and Bellibolt are very good at revenge killing us and dealing with us once we Terra. Before we Terra, we beat them pretty well. So we got to be careful. Really, unless Palafin is in my face, I'm probably not Terraing this until then. But if it is, we got to do it. We got to be careful and make sure we don't lose to the Palafin. So that's going to be the team. Mox went pretty well. I'd say probably about like a 70% win rate. And that's through making tweaks and things like that. This is version, 3 of the team. So yeah, that being said, we can just jump right into the first battle. Alrighty, game is here. We're not going to do them live, by the way. I really want to lock in on these games. I kind of like turned off the lights, dimmed the lights, got in the mood, got ready to go for the battle. So this is post-playing the actual battle itself here against Shade. You can see the team they end up bringing the Ogerpon no Bellibolt, which is like nice, but also nice. Bellibolt was definitely like really annoying. But Ogerpon also is a little bit too for the Terra Goldango plan, right? So we kind of do need to eliminate that guy before we want to Terra our gold. But other than that, pretty simple stuff, stuff that we saw in the mocks themselves pretty consistently. We see that it is Terra Steel Torn, so I'm expecting AV going into this game. Knocking that off is going to be very important, but we do have 2 Pokemon that can do so pretty comfortably, whether it be Mandibuzz or our Eel. So. Or 3 Pokemon that can do so, or Valiant, which is probably going to be what it switches into initially, at least, because like AV is pretty strong, especially before it tears. But yeah, it's also nice to see that it's not poison. That means like once it tears, the possibility of fighting move into it is really, really scary. So if we get the right click, depending on whether Petron comes in or the Torn comes in, we can actually force a lot of progress and things like that. But yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to be pausing a little bit throughout these a little bit more than I typically do. So I'm going to lead Eel into the Torn. They are going to Terra immediately. So they get off this Terra, which is nice for them in the sense that they're probably not boots. So especially if I like get up rocks with something like Dio, really don't want to take that rock chip on your Torn. But the other thing that this means is they have not popped their fin form yet. And I think this is like the big crux of Palafin teams. They're very difficult to position because like I understand wanting to lead your Torn here. Getting off that Terra Steel is very smart. But now it makes it really awkward depending on what I bring and how I play to get your fin in to pop that form. So that's really good for me. Tinglu is always going to be the switch in here, so I'm completely fine with that. I'm just going to click knock off, get rid of its leftovers, which is always great, and get a nice slow U-turn out here as rocks do end up going up. And again, this chip is always nice. The more U-turn chips we get, the more we're able to position Dio getting a kill at +2 with a Focus Blast. So that's obviously great. I'm going to go to Mandibuzz. I don't want rocks to be up right now. They can Ruination if they'd like. That's fine. I'm not Roost. I don't really need a lot of health on this. Really, it's here to kind of slow pivot into this, as well as the Petron and maybe the Ogerpon. Now I gotta be careful about defogging later because they're gonna kind of see a lot of my moveset here as I taunt and then U-turn afterwards. So they might be a little bit iffy about, or they might not be as iffy about going hard Ogerpon on the defog later. And with my Mandibuzz chipped, I actually do struggle into that Pokemon a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind. We're gonna taunt him, make sure he can't get up rocks. Click a nice little U-turn here on the Tornadus coming out. I'm going to get an Electros and again, get a nice slow U-turn. I am forced to take a little bit of chip here, but this is the best way for me to reposition because I need to force out this Torn as I don't really have much that immediately pressures it outside of Eel. So I'm going to click U-turn. This is going to show to be a pretty offensive Cyclozar, by the way. Showing to be like no HP basically. I mean, if it has HP, it's like enough for creeps and things like that. Like it's not like max HP Cyclozar, kind of indicating like, yeah, this is going to be an offensive variant. So I know that there's nothing this thing can do from full to kill me. Plus I am bluffing Scarf here. Like there's real potential I could just blow him up with a Moonblast. They're going to make an aggressive pivot out here into Torn. You'll see why. As they do knock off their item, do 42%, which is a crazy amount, and knock off a Chople Berry. So that's good to know. It's no longer, well, we know it's not AV, but even if it was, it's gone. Now, again, we're in a position where if next time that Cyclozar is in, I actually feel much more comfortable clicking knockoff because I know that they've shown me Terra Steel. I know that they show that they died with or they died a CC after a Chople Berry. They win it last time. The pressure is, the pressure that Valiant kind of exerts kind of forces them Petra next time. So it's all good things to know and all things we're kind of keeping in mind as we're playing. As they're going to U-turn on my Eel. Definitely annoying, but not the end of the world. Tinglu is going to come out. I'm going to go ahead and click a nice little U-turn, get a crit, which is actually really nice. It's going to potentially put this in range of a +2 Ice Beam. I make a more aggressive switch in here and go Iron Valiant as the Petron's going to come in. And again, I feel very comfortable going for a knockoff here. I think it's very difficult for them to go Torn after they show me to be their initial pivot last time with the Chople Berry. The Chople is gone, so going into the Ghost type that's immune to it and still resists Moonblast is probably a little bit safer of a play on their end. So I feel very comfortable knocking again there. I am going to Psychic here in case they think that Knock is my only coverage for that guy. They make a good pivot, go onto the Torn right here, and I'm taking a little bit of Life Orb Chip, which is definitely annoying, but not the end of the world. I still do have my Electros, so it's not the end of the world. Terra Blast does come out, which would have OHKO'd my guy, so I'm glad I switched. U-turn here on the Torn. I do go for a Discharge, just kind of bait one. I figured they probably wouldn't want to go into Tinglu immediately, give me more momentum, get into something scary offensively, whereas Petron does kind of check this guy. It also can get a potentially free recover off on it. That's why I kind of wanted to go for the Discharge, see if I could bait a Para. Unfortunately, we don't get it, but we do get a U-turn, and we get that free switch into Deoxys speed. Now, this is the position I wanted. I don't think my opponent can risk this Pokemon. I understand that Ghost obviously is threatening to me, but I know he's not Pyappa, which I played a lot in Mox. I already knocked off the item regardless, right? I know he's not Pyappa anymore. Plus, with the Torn losing its Chople, he is very liable to get absolutely packed by an Iron Valiant clicking the right button. Like, absolutely viable to get packed by that Pokemon clicking the right button. So I don't think he's going to want to sack this. I think he is going to save it in some capacities. He does end up going hard Torn here. They do click a Nasty Plot, and thanks to the Chople Bearing being knocked off, we get the KO here. Now that crit does not matter. I promise you, we did a lot of damage with +2 Modest. Palafin comes out, and this is a very free click for me. This is him just trying to pop his form. There's no universe where like a Jet Punch from Babyfin kills me or anything like that. They're not just going to sack it to me Psycho Boosting. Even if they're like Banded Wave Crash, I also don't think get killed. So I'm just going to click Ice Beam right here. Predicting the Tinglu to come out. I guess it doesn't really matter. I could have clicked Psycho Boost and then clicked Ice Beam after, but that gives them the option to pivot back into Finn, and I don't like that. This thing comes back out, and I'm looking at the calc, and I'm like, wow, I live Jet Punch very comfortably. Like, I live Jet Punch very comfortably. Even Choice Band. What I can do here is I can just Psycho Boost, and if they're not, what do you call it? Like, they're not AV Cyclozar, Petron dies, that forces an Ogerpon, lets me get an Ice Beam off that guy, and we basically get, like, 2.5 Pokemon with our Deoxys right here, which is a great trade. So I'm just going to stay in. I do have a switch into this Pokemon clicking Jet Punch, but like the upside of killing it with Psycho Boost is just a lot higher. And I don't think I'm going to get another Nasty Plot off of this game. So I am just going to go ahead and click the Psycho Boost. Jet Punch hits. And unfortunately, we do miss, which is a little unfortunate. We did hit a Focus Blast, but, you know, you're in odds to hit that, and you're definitely in odds to, you know, hit a Psycho Boost. I think the game was over from this point if I hit this. I just don't think my opponent had enough points or pieces left at that point. So it happens. We end up sacking our Electros because there is still value in my Deoxys being faster than literally everything. If it gets in on a Psychozar, it kills it with Ice Beam. If it gets in on Petron, it kills it with a Psycho Boost. There's a lot of damage to Ogerpon too. So I figured it was still worth it. I'm going to go into my Goldango right here. I'm showing Terra Water, and I really don't think they're going to just like Jet Punch or Wave Crash into my Terra Water here. So I'll make a little bit of an aggressive play, and I am just going to stay in and Nasty Plot pre-Terra. Out comes the Ogerpon right here, which is totally fine with me. And I'm just going to stay in and click Make It Rain. You'll see right here, they do end up clicking Ivy Cudgel. It does nothing because I'm Fizz Def. And despite being no special attack investment, Make It Rain is a broken move. So we are just going to go ahead and click it. Knock that guy out. Now, they're going to go into Cyclozar here, and I am going to Terra Water and recover. They make a good play on Dracoing, but I think what their play probably was in this instance was maybe going Cyclozar before Ogre, because that kind of forces me to Terra, because Overheat is such a looming threat. I Terra, I recover, I beat it, but then you have the Ogerpon Revenge, and I do kind of have to save this for Palafin. So puts me in definitely an uncomfortable position. So I think they just kind of went into the mons in the wrong order, but we'll take it. Draco does so much damage, by the way. Shouts to Charles Cyclozar being broken. But we're just going to click Recover, though. Goldango's, you know, Natural Bolt coming up clutch. Get back up to full as Petron comes in. And I am just going to go for the Shadow Ball. You'll see Malignant Chain doesn't do that much. If it gets a Poison, it's definitely annoying. But I'll take the KO on this Pokemon, right? Because then I want you to look at my Ogerpon. Ogerpon is just a certified KO every time it comes in at that point. So I am just going to go ahead and click it. I do get Malignant Chain Poison. Thankfully, not confused. Unfortunately, come just short of picking up the KO on Petron here. I am going to go ahead and recover up here. I do want to stay healthy. I don't need to immediately 1v1 this thing now at this point. I do have a couple sacks. I do have a couple pieces. I am going to go ahead and click Shadow Ball again as they recover. I do need to be somewhat conscious of keeping this thing healthy out of range of like a Wave Crash. We know it's not banded Palafin at this point, so got to be careful about that. I am going to go ahead, recover up once more, but because Malignant Chain is poison and is a broken move, we are going to be forced out here, so we're just taking a ton of damage. I'm going to sack off my Mandibuzz, which, because it's Fizz Def, it's going to die to the Life Orb hit here. No biggie. And we're going to go out into Deoxys. The reason I go into Deoxys instead of Valiant is because if it is Mixed Iron Head, there's a real chance it could just knock me out right there. Plus, I know this thing is not speeding. I know it's Life Orb. I know I kill it. Going into Palafin is kind of a death sentence. If you take Psycho Boost, you're really just not trying to live into the Gold Hango afterwards. And obviously, Petrarunt, can come in on Ice Beam if it wants, and then I'm just going to Psycho Boost afterwards kind of thing. So I'm just going to click the safe Ice Beam right here. It is enough to knock out the Cyclozar, which is great. Down it goes. Palafin comes out. I can't really let this thing set up for free, so I am going to Psycho Boost here as it does pick me off. I feel pretty comfortable in the Petrarunt still. The combination of as long as I have Valiant in on it and I force a Psychic off, it might live from here, but I will be able to revenge it with Ogerpon. So we got to be careful about that. My Goldengo is also still very, very strong here, as I'm going to take Rocks here, as it does end up showing a Bulk Up. So it is Bulk Up. Definitely very, very scary. Not the greatest thing in the world, as it does Bulk Up once again. And right here, looking at the calcs, I can go ahead and click a Nasty Plot. I should be able to live any one hit from this thing at +2 pretty comfortably. And Helmet plus Shadow Ball plus another Helmet should knock this thing out. It should knock it out, at least. I really hope it does. As it is going to Zen Headbutt. Thankfully, we do not get flinched at only doing 50%, being for 10 roll, obviously. Shadow Ball does 73 because Goldengo is still so naturally strong. And we are going to go down to a Jet Punch here. But again, the Helmet recoil is just enough to pick this guy off. And we're going to be able to kind of position ourselves the way I thought before. This thing can't recover off Psychics. It only has 4 left anyways, and I'm above 30%. So not too big of a deal. We're going to click Psychic. They are going to get a Malignant Chain KO. But then from here, we can just go in, click that Cudgel, knock it out, and take home a very narrow 1-0 win. I'm very happy with this one, to be honest with you. I know it's only a 1-0 win, but I think it would have been a lot higher if we hit our Psycho Boost on the Palafin. That killed max HP Palafin, by the way, and I know he was at least some attack investment, I believe, and he was definitely somewhat speedy on the Fin. So I know that thing died to Psycho Boost, and again, it's Mons, it's life. We did hit a Focus Splash right before, so and that would have been bad to miss too. So I guess one of them we had to miss. Is probably better to kill the Tinglu and because we had a better check to the Palafin in the back. So yeah, I'm very happy about that one. That's week 1 in the books. Week 2 we are starting as well. We're using a different team next week too, which is pretty fun. So whenever we get to that point, I'll record again and we'll keep the run going. Alright guys, week 2 we're going up against Chrysite, and I did want to give a little quick brief team overview before we jump into the battle and kind of my general thoughts. Going into this game, I initially thought Darkrai was going to be easy. You see the team we're using this week, it's the team that I like the most out of all of our drafts. It's like the Tarot Moon, Moth, Gliscor kind of core. I really like it a lot. I think it's awesome. Klefki, Rotom, great pivots and like screens and like offense facilitators. So definitely some really, really cool stuff on this team. I like the matchup to a decent degree. I originally thought like my Darkrai matchup was great because I don't have to deal with like it's doing big crazy damage because I have Klefki. But then I was mocking and I kept mocking Money. And he kept getting he kept being Nasty Plot, Hypnosis, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam. And he kept hypnosising my Klefki and getting like triple sleep turns. And it was my Klefki and my original Iron Moth that I had on the team. It was infuriating. That Pokemon is infuriating. Smogon might have been on something when they're talking about banning sleep. Like very annoying. Lando, not too big of an offensive threat, being that we have like things like Gliscor plus Rotom. So that's obviously nice. Latias also not a big threat, being that we have Klefki. Something like Cerulege and Quack are going to kind of be like the main offensive pieces for my opponent. Using like Quack more offensively and like Wincon Cerulege is what I'm thinking. We'll see though. I definitely think like Tinkaton is also an annoying pivot. We have a pretty like anti-Tinkaton team in general though, like with the sets we're bringing and things like that. So we'll see what ends up going. You can see that first member of the team is going to be Terapagos. It's a great rocker in this game. I didn't really want rocks on anything else. Gliscor was not going to be rocks this week, and I didn't want to bring Avalok. I actually don't even know if Avalok is rocks, to be honest with you. He was never on my builder. That guy sucks. But I like the rocks. I like the spin. We're pretty darn offensively too. It's a pretty like good blanket, like oh no, don't lose to Darkrai, Quackleval, or Cerulege kind of answer. Starstorm is modest. It does a ton of damage. After spin, we should outpace pretty much everything. Using the main Wincon and like the kind of big piece of the team is going to be this Poison Heal Gliscor. It is Terra Flying, which is weird. It's an offensive Terra type. It kind of reduces the Ice Beam weaknesses, gets rid of a lot of our ground weaknesses, which is nice. And on top of that, it's also really good at picking up some really strong KOs at +2 with Terra Flying. Like Okoing things like Darkrai is really, really clutch. We're pretty darn fast in this. I believe we are creeping down to Rotom, so we should outspeed pretty much anything not max speed Jolly Tinkaton, which is nice because we don't want to get Encored. We can pretty comfortably stay in, like after we SD, dual wing beat, pop a balloon, and then go to town from there with an EQ. So that's obviously really nice. We can set up all over Lando, especially in conjunction with our Klefki, which is just dual screens T-Wave Gleam. It's also our main Darkrai check. It's a pivot into Lottie as well. We Thunderwave things, get some speed control for the team, which is nice. Then we have a booster attack, Roaring Moon, also very, very strong. Again, if it's something like Shook-a-Tink or like Balloon Tink, we knock and then EQ and just blow it up with booster attack. Booster attack makes things like Lando a little bit harder to switch in. Acro is pretty darn strong here as well. Combo of knockoff Acro Earthquake is just really strong in general. Finish off Rotom is actually going to be our lead in this game. Originally, I had like a lead Iron Moth, like T-Spike, Meteor Beam kind of thing with like a bluff Terra, like Terra Dark, but it really just was not doing anything. The guys that were wanted to poison were all running boots anyways, so I ended up just kind of scrapping and going with the Serena in the last slot, which we'll talk about in a second, but that also made me change my lead, and we ended up changing it to Rotom. It gets a pretty V-Volt on like literally everything. It's slower than things it needs to be slower than, it's faster than things it needs to be faster than. With the Citrus Berry, we can also avoid getting hit by Ceruledge Poltergeist, if that's its ghost coverage of choice in this battle, which I think can be really, really nice. And then we have a pretty offensive Choice Scarf Serena. I need something faster than Darkrai. That Hypnosis set was really, really doing me dirty, and I thought that Scarf Serena, as much as it isn't great, looked a lot better than Scarf Iron Moth, personally. So we don't want Serena in this game. We'll see how this team ends up functioning. I think it's pretty solid, though. I think it's pretty strong. It's really kind of centered around, like, can Gliscor win this game? And that's going to be what we kind of go for there. So, yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into that battle. Alrighty, all, here we are with the battle. We are connected with Chrysite, and you can see the team they ended up bringing. It was a Terra Grass Quackball. You can't see the Ceruledge. It was Terra Steel in this matchup. Beyond the Terra Captains, they brought the Lando, the Darkrai, the Latias, and the Tinkaton. All pretty expected stuff. It's honestly what I expected to play. You remember our team, and with that being said, we can go ahead and kind of just jump on into it. Now, I did mention I was always going to lead Rotom in this game. I wanted to lead well into Lando, lead well into Tinkaton, lead well into the dual offense here. Now, Grass is a little bit scary, means my Rotom definitely isn't a very good check, but all things to keep in mind. We're going to see a Darkrai lead, and there's no reason for me to stay in and like take like a Specs Dark Pulse or even like a Hypnosis catching the Klefki. I'd rather my Klefki catch that Hypnosis than my Rotom, which needs to come in and check things like the Landorus, which can be a big issue otherwise for this team. So I am going to go ahead and hard switch out, but they actually like to double themselves. Maybe scouting for Scarf, maybe not wanting to get T-Waved, whatever it may be, or just say switch. I'm going to go ahead and set up Reflect here. Lottie does reveal to be Trick. This is definitely unfortunate. This kind of really neuters my Klefki in this game. I'm not going to lie to you. It makes it much, much worse than it should be. But what I should be able to do, because I attacked before I got tricked, is I should be able to click my second screen and kind of go from there. I thought about T-Waving, but I thought the possibility of Lando coming in was pretty likely to cover that attack, as well as like kind of either get rocks, maintain initiative, whatever it may be. So I did get up my screen, and Ceruledge is going to come hard in, which also makes a lot of sense. But I'm like, okay, this is fine. I pivot out through my Rotom, get a slow Volt Switch off, reset tempo, go from there. Unfortunately, they do show the Brick Break, so we basically lost our screens element. I think that was on turn 4. Like, it's basically gone. I'm going to make the Volt play as the Latias just come out, get into my Roaring Moon, and again, this is a pretty unguardable Pokemon. Even if the Lando switches in, it doesn't want to take a knock here from Booster Attack. Tinkaton, depending, if it's not like literally max Fizdef, knockoff into Earthquake will kill. It'll pop its Balloon, obviously, or it'll get rid of its Shook-a-Berry. It can't, like, pickpocket my item or whatever it may be. So Knock is unbelievably strong right here. Super, super strong right here. So I'm just going to click it. They like to just sack off their Lottie, maybe just thinking it got the value it needed, and tricking the Klefki, so that's great. Next up is Tinkaton, and I could be super over-aggressive and be like, they're not play roughing here, or they're not Gigaton hammering here, and click Earthquake, but I really didn't think it was worth it. I have solid pivots into this, and I can kind of deal with it accordingly. And I'm going to go into my Rotom right here, as they do elect T-Wave, so I'm really glad I didn't be super over-aggressive and like punish rocks, or like knock, or Gigaton, or anything like that, because I would have had a paired Moon, and that Moon would have been very, very useless this game. They're going to should be Rock or Tinkaton, showing that the Landorus likely isn't rocks unless they're double rocks, which doesn't make a ton of sense in this matchup, in my opinion, especially when they can't spin block me without a Terra Ghost, or no, they can. I'm done with Ceruledge. But regardless, makes sense. We're gonna go into our Gliscor here, and I know that this is probably Shuka, right? Being that it didn't show Balloon in the Moon matchup, it's definitely going to be Shook-a-Berry. But in my mind, I thought maybe they wouldn't want to pop that Shuka, because right now +1 Moon looks really strong. It's really on the Landorus that deals with it, and even then, doesn't want to take a neutral like Max Attack. Knockoff really, really neuters that Pokemon, especially once rocks go up. So I thought it would be pretty safe to throw off an SD. But looking at the opponent's team, to be fair, once we got up in SD, the game was like over. So there's no universe where they can let me Swords Dance. So because of that, Earthquake was super free. I Terra Flying here just in case it is like Ice Hammer in one of these slots. I don't know for sure what it is, and I don't want to take a lot of damage from that. I'll take a ton if I don't Terra. So they do make an Encore play. Very, very solid play. Makes a lot of sense. I'm going to put it out into my Rotom as they go into Darkrai, and I'm once again going to have to go to Clef Key as they elect to substitute right here. And this is a little worrisome, especially if it's like Sub-Hypnosis, but it actually shows to be so Calm Mind. Also very, very scary because we are Dazzling Gleam, not Play Rough. So we're just going to kind of keep spamming it. My idea here, and my best way of being this, is either one, ensuring this thing doesn't have a sub, which I don't know if I can necessarily do. If I can ensure it doesn't have a sub, I can always come in and revenge it with Serena High Jump Kick, Power Up, or U-Turn. Any of the three totally work out, right? If I don't, what I'm going to have to do is go into my Terapagos and click Rapid Spin, not get flinched, and then revenge it afterwards, depending on how low it is. So we have a couple ways of beating this thing right here. As you can see, it's just going to kind of start clicking Dark Pulse. It's at +2, so it's also really, really scary at this point. Thankfully, we're not getting flinched, which is nice. And again, they didn't sub there, so it's fine, honestly, if we did get flinched and then die. The issue is this thing ending with sub. Excuse me. Because what I'm going to do is, or what's going to happen is I'm not going to be able to go Serena because it's just going to kill me at +2. I'm an offensive Scarf Serena. And then from there, I don't really have anything else to use, so I'm going to have to risk the Terapagos anyway. So I personally figured that going Terap was probably my best bet. Now, obviously, I could get flinched here, and that would be really bad, but I'm going to use the shell for what it was brought for. I'm going to go to Terapagos. I'm going to spin because it'll dual prong, get rid of these rocks, and break this guy's sub, especially after a Gleam has hit it. So what I can do is just click that Rapid Spin. Dark Pulse still does a lot of damage because it is +2, despite the not very effective. And from here, I'm just going to throw off a Terra Storm. Couldn't throw off an Earth Power there. That would have been really bad. I'm going to click it this turn, though, as I know this is Brick Break, not Close Combat, and it cannot kill me in one hit. What I can do is I can click Earth Power, kind of gauge what set this is. This shows either, like, offensive AV or, like, very, very bulky boots. I'm not 100% sure. Like, or I don't 100% remember the calcs. But regardless, this next turn I'm actually going to elect to get up my Stealth Rock. I feel like Stealth Rock for likes of this really cheap or really low Darkrai when they can't really remove it super easily. Rocks for things like Lando, even Tinkaton slowly chipping it down is really, really clutch. So I'm going to go ahead and get out my rocks as I do die to a Bitter Blade here. This is once again going to be that entry point for Roaring Moon to just click Knock Off once again. So you're going to knock out this Roulette, it loses its boots. And out comes Tinkaton this next turn. And again, I don't want to just take a Tinkaton hit for no reason. Fortunately, this does mean that rocks go back up, which is fair. You know, not a super over-aggressive or not a super crazy play. Just didn't want to risk being too over-aggressive there as I do Volt out and go into my Ghost Score. Excuse me. I record these really late at night if you couldn't tell. Either that or really early in the morning. So I'm going to go Gliscor, and I'm going to Earthquake this time. Again, I think they understand if they let me SD for free, the game is like literally over. Because I can agility on the Darkrai, and then the game's over, right? So I do just EQ here, understanding that that's like kind of the pressure that we're exerting. I'm going to click the EQ, as Encore does come out here, and I'm going to make it double out into my Rotom. Rotom does two things. It either covers the Lando coming in on my Earthquake, because it's the only immunity, or it doesn't really care about this guy, right? Like, at all. So we're going to go ahead and go below half, pop our Citrus, get back up to about 6-7, take a little bit of damage for this Gigaton here. I don't know if he's going to come out. We're going to dodge it because we're lucky and bad, as Rotom does knock the guy. Obviously, it's a joke, you know, like, it doesn't matter. We're going to go Serena here as Darkrai ends up coming out. I like Serena a lot because it'll let me reposition on Landers, plus they don't know if I'm triple axle. It lets me really, really pressure things like Quackle. I can actually 2-hit KO with High Jump Kick, make sure I put a ton of damage on it, which is obviously really nice. Or this Darkrai, I can just click U-turn and kill it, right? The kind of surprise aspect of this Scarf set right here. Plus, there's probably nothing that either of these two Pokemon have that just one-shots my Serena. Like, literally at all, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just click that U-turn button, knock out the Darkrai, get a Roaring Moon. This was kind of like the silly part. I think what I can do pretty darn freaking easily is just go Gliscor. If they go Lando, I Swords Dance, win the game. If they go Quackle, I win the game. I just dueling beat. It Okos it. It's Terra Grass, so there's no way it can tear out of it. My thought process is I wanted to chip down Lando so they couldn't Intin Shuffle me as well, and I could just get up an SD and win the game. So maybe like the incorrect positioning, or maybe I'm thinking a little bit too much about these kinds of end games and these turns, but I am going to go ahead and Dragon Dance in its faces. It does actually end up clicking Smackdown, trying to catch either Rotom or the you know, flying Gliscor right there. So I am going to go ahead and be able to Dragon Dance up once. I'm going to click knockoff, and again, look how strong that is, right? Like, look how strong that is. It's just a neutral knockoff. Probably pretty offensive lander, to be fair. But man, that's a lot of damage. We're going to knock off this thing's leftovers. And right here, we're going to take an Earthquake. This next turn, I'm actually going to make a silly play. I'm going to Dragon Dance. And again, I think this is just me overcomplicating it, right? Because my thought process this time was, okay, I actually realized I want to set up on this guy, especially now that it's chipped, no more leftovers, whatever it may be. I come in, I set up a Swords Dance, and the game is over. Pretty much, right? So I click Dragon Dance. But what I didn't realize is, one, Acrobatics probably doesn't kill, so I can kind of just click that, put this thing in range of rocks. Or two, what I can do is, you know, kill this thing, or if they switch out randomly into the Quackleval, I can just click Acro on that turn, right? We're +1, they can't, like, Aqua Step past me, whatever it might be. I can go ahead and just, like, blow them up with an Acrobatics. So I think I got a little lost in the sauce there. Not too big of a deal, though, because, like I said, Gliscor is going to come out. We're going to take a Smackdown right here, showing that it is faster than us, which is not great, but we should be safe to another Smackdown right here. Earthquake also a little bit scary, but we actually outspeed the next turn. Showing that this was a speed tie. Now, what we did in our creep was we crept Pokemon creeping Rotom. So Pokemon that hit 299, our Gliscor hit 300. I don't know if Landers has a jump number, or if there's a jump number that we did not account for, and Landers hits 300 creeping Rotom, or if, like, they messed up on their side of the creep, because I checked, I was 300 speed Gliscor. So I'm not 100% sure why we ended up speed tying. I will take winning the second one, though. I 100% take winning the second one. We are going to go ahead, knock this guy out. As Quackleval is going to come out, and again, this Terra Grass, there's no 50-50. We're just going to go ahead and click Dual Wing Beat, 92, +2, knock that guy out, and we're going to take home a dub in week 2, which is really nice. Big shout out to Cryset, my opponent. They're very, very nice. Really, really cool person. Easy to schedule with, nice person, and yeah, I'm glad to knock him off, though, and put ourselves 2-0 in the season. Our team going into this battle was 0-2. This win brought us to 1-2. Again, I'm recording these on the night of, after I play them and kind of like digest the game a little bit. We don't really have word on if we won this series, or if like we're gonna win this series or not yet. Obviously, being that I'm just the third game played, we did week 1 though. When we won though, like I mentioned, I think in the last part of the video, I'm not sure, but we did win. So hopefully we can keep the winning ways going and go 2-0 going into week 3. But yeah, let's jump into the week 3 game if I'm playing. I actually don't know. Alright, OG Sunburn Albina here, very tired before my game against Hovika. If I'm saying that right, I apologize if I'm not. I say that as someone who also has like a weird online internet name / alias, so like I could be saying that completely incorrectly, but I apologize if so. They have a pretty scary team here. Meow is like my least favorite Pokemon to play. Thankfully, I drafted one of my favorite Pokemon in Klefki, and one of the reasons it's one of my favorite Pokemon is because it is like one of 2 Mons in my mind that shut down Meowscarada, at least like Meowscarada itself. Now the U-turns it gets, who's to say? Then we have things like Landorus. Keldeo is a really big problem for me. I'm really, really worried about Terra fighting Keldeo. I do not have a Secret Sword answer. I just don't. Secret Sword plus Surf just nukes my whole shit. It really runs my fade, so we gotta be super careful about that. Dragonite is proven to be a big issue in some mocks. Like, I played one game where it was like DD lead weakness policy, and with the team I have, you'll see, that was really bad for me. I just kind of lost off rip, so gotta be careful about that. Terra Iron Moth is also a pretty big scare. I don't have great consistent counterplay to that thing. It's actually really strong into the team with just like stabs plus gleam. It can be really powerful. Cyclizar is a good spinner. Can't block spin. I can definitely punish it, but I can't block it without any Terras on this team. Carbink, which is actually like the only normal resist on the team, so I think it's very possible for a Carbink to come. It's also like a soft immune check, especially like the choice sets that are usually coming. And then Electros of their own, which can be annoying with an AV for sure, for things like Moth and Terapagos. So yeah, let's take a look at the team that we have here. First up, we have a pretty unconventional set here, and I'm sorry it's small. I'm just trying to fit matchup and builder here, so just try and follow along if it's too small. But we have a Terapagos here. It is going to be a Choice Scarf set with Terra Starstorm, Ice Beam, Flash Cannon, and Double Edge. Very, very interesting here. We actually tried a couple different things. I had 2 versions of this team. Version number 1 is the team we ended up going with. The version number 2 that we had was a team that, or was really the only difference was Terapagos. It was a set that I believe it was Nozermat suggested. It was a pretty cool set. It was Toxic Protect, Terra Starstorm, and Rapid Spin. No normal resist, and like with the defense we had, we could like take Strongest Pivot Mood, Meowscarada U-turn, Toxic something, then protect and get back to our shell and be a real big nuisance in that way, and like spin and get fast in some things and then Toxic solve them that way. But the issue with that I was having in testing was Cyclozar and Electros can just be AV and knock me off. They get rid of my leftovers and I'm kind of screwed, right? So I didn't really like that set because of that. It did well in teams that didn't have those specific sets. But when I did play them, it really struggled to do well. So I went back to the Scar set. I really like the Scar set. Again, there's no normal resist. There's a Carbink, but Carbing's Carbink. If Carbink doesn't come, or we can force it in with our Moon, Terra Starstorm becomes ridiculously free. If we play Carbink on lead, we can flash cannon it and do like 90% to it or something crazy. Ice Beam is honestly there just to catch Pokemon like Landorus, Meowscarada off guard, as well as Dragonite. If it's like lead Dragonite and it thinks it can DD in my face or whatever it wants to do, we can go ahead and click Ice Beam and just kill it, right? I think Ice Beam through scaled is like 50, so obviously we blow it up the turn afterwards, so that's obviously pretty cool. Double Edge is like a tech option for like a super calm-minded up Keldeo. Obviously Vacuum Wave is pretty scary, but if we're healthy, we can, you know, take that hit decently well enough. It does more to things like Electros, and it actually does a little bit more in Iron Moth at a pinch. It's realistically not going to be clicked too often, but I did like the option once our shell is broken to be able to click Double Edge. But yeah, this guy's here to click Terra Starstorm, really. That's kind of it. Terra Starstorm and Ice Beam. Second Scarfer. We're going dual Scarf this week. I'm a big dual Scarf believer. We have a Roaring Moon next. It is going to be Outrage, Knockoff, Iron Head, and U-Turn. It's good speed control. It is a Pokemon faster than Meowscarada. It is a Pokemon faster than any Scarfers that they can have outside the Meowscarada Cyclozar. I like it because it's also faster than Booster Speed Moth, and I like having a way of revenging that. Iron Head covers Terra Fairy, and Outrage covers everything else. I do not expect Terra Steel at all. I could be wrong, but I really don't expect Terra Steel. So the combination of Outrage, Knockoff, Iron Head should be able to revenge any Iron Moth that comes in if it gets a booster speed up. Agility's a little bit different of a story, but I don't expect Steel. So could be wrong. It could bite me in the ass, but we'll see. We have a close score here. It's going to be Terra Dragon, but not very often being Terra. Terra Dragon just kind of lets us still like be neutral to fighting, but also not be weak to water anymore at all, which is pretty cool. But again, it's kind of more so there as a bluff. I'm not really going to do so. This is going to be our Rocker this week. It's also our main pivot in Iron Moth. We are max for Def, Gliscor, Earthquake, Toxic, U-Turn, Stealth Rock. Gotta be careful about knockoffs into things like Electros and Cyclozar because we do switch in on them well, but we don't want to lose our Toxic Orb. So we have to find the right opportunities to proc this. It's probably going to be on Roaring Moon U-Turn into Landorus. That's how it's gone in most games, but we'll see. From Spadef to Fizdef, we have our Klefki next. Klefki is going to be max defense, and it is going to be a spiking set. This is here to check Meowscarada, get up spikes, and T-Wave things. T-Waving things like Keldeo, Iron Moth, Dragonite, Cyclozar, all these things is absolutely incredible. And then we have a last move teched in Fairy Lock. What Fairy Lock does, if you don't know, is the next turn, all Pokemon on the field cannot switch. So it prevents my opponent from doubling. So say I'm in a position where I really want to sack off my Klefki, and Landorus comes in, I can Fairy Lock, so that guy cannot switch the next turn, die to Earthquake, and the next turn I get into Roaring Moon, or not Roaring Moon, Terapagos, and I click Ice Beam. Or I get into the next member in Iron Moth and blow it up. Iron Moth, pretty simple set. We are Terra Fairy here. I actually really like Terra Fairy here. I think it's incredibly strong. Flamethrower, Gleam, Meteor Beam, Agility, Max just to tie the other Moth. Also outpaces Keldeo. Terra Fairy is nice because it still resists Vacuum Wave, which I like a lot. And Fairy is neutral to water while still resisting fighting, which is the important one. So we can always take a hit from that guy, which is nice. Meteor Beam to get a nice +1 as well as a nuke on the likes of the opposing Iron Moth. And then Flamethrower, Dazzling Gleam is actually like low-key perfect coverage. Again, the Binkster is a little scary, but we have plenty of answers to Carbink. And again, chipping it down is still nice for Terapagos, right? And Terapagos is kind of the end game that we're looking for. Terapagos or Moon. So either of those Pokemon being chipped down by Iron Moth is a good thing. And lastly, we have like a mixed defensive Serena. It is AV to take like Surfs, Hydros, things like that from Keldeo. But it also is pretty darn Fizdef in order to take 2 non-boosted Secret Swords, sorry, from the Keldeo, which is nice. It has decent coverage otherwise too. Whip Triple Axle is really powerful from this team. It has no Steel type, so that's great. Best switch into this Pokemon's moveset is actually Iron Moth, which is pretty funny. And those Adamant Power Whips to Pokemon like Electros are going to do a decent amount of damage, right? Triple Axle also hits Dragonite, Cyclozar, obviously Landorus, Meowscarada, things like that. And then we have Spin to keep away hazards. They also don't have Spin Block unless they go Terragos. I have played some Terragos Moths in mocks because of the fact that it gives them a normal immunity as well as Spin Block if they do go a hazard stack route. But if it's Terragos, it gets blown up by a power up on the switch-ins. So still not a great Spin Blocker into it, right? So all things to keep in mind. I think this is a pretty fun build. It has not performed the best in mocks in all of them. I do think that my opponent does have a pretty okay matchup into me, to be honest with you. I really struggle with Keldeo Iron Moth. That core is super strong into our team. But hey, I think this is pretty okay, and let's jump into the battle and see how it goes. Alrighty, we're back with our week 3 battle here against Hovica. Again, if I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. But look at the team they ended up bringing. I know I have the Terra typings cut off because of the dimensions, things like that. But they're Terra Electric on their Keldeo and Terra Ghost on their Moth. So the way this looks, I think Ghost Moth kind of implies that they are going to Terra the Moth here. Electric feels like a bluff into my Klefki. I actually don't think Electric really helps them at all in any matchups. It kind of seems like a T-Wave deterrent early. But the Ghost Moth seems like it is definitely a possibility for my Terra Starstorms. So all things to keep in mind. Does definitely make this game harder until I can KO that Iron Moth. But if I can, hell yeah. All right. With that being said, let's jump right into it. Like I said, we are going to lead our Terapagos here. If I can catch a Lando lead trying to like just rock up immediately, I want to be able to catch that ASAP and just blow it up with an Ice Beam. We do see lead Meowscarada, but I'm still okay with revealing my Scarf right here, right? Because, yeah, they're going to be able to pop my thing with a U-turn. They could stay in a knock, but I think that's silly. They could pop my shell with a U-turn, but then I can just go out on a Klefki, and I have, like, 80% off of Meowscarada. If they, like, attack, they're going to die. And that's awesome for me. That's absolutely incredible for me. It really opens up Moon once I can kill the Landers, especially being that this is Terra Ghost on this guy. It's just revenge by knockoff, even if it doesn't have an item because of a booster. So they're going to U-turn, though, and that reveals Scarf, and that's good for 2 reasons. Number 1 is it gives me intel on their set, right? If I'm leading a normal Terapagos, which this would have been like an okay lead if I were my, set? My Toxic Protect set. But what U-turn also does is obviously breaks my shell. I get intel on their set, but they're also not getting intel on me. They don't know that I'm Choice Scarf yet, so I can kind of use that to my advantage later on. Ice Beam shows that this is still offensive Iron Moth. It still takes 17%. They are going to Terra here immediately, so they don't get Terra Starstorm. So I go into my Spinefla score, and unfortunately do get hit with a crit. This next attack was a roll because of that, but I figured I can't really switch around this Pokemon, especially as it's clicking Fiery Dance. I just want to try and get at my rocks. If I don't, it's not the end of the world, right? I can play this game without rocks very easily. So I am going to go ahead and get up rocks as they do go ahead and Fiery Dance. Don't get the kill, thankfully, which is awesome, and they kill me on the next turn. Royman's going to be switched out as Landers is going to be the pivot. I am immediately just going to go ahead and click a nice U-turn. I don't think they're going to sack their normal immunity right away for no reason, and their spin block right away for no reason, so I'm going to U-turn, reveal Helmet, go into Terapagos, and I'm assuming they're fast Helmet. I didn't actually count that on the U-turn, but regardless, I am assuming they think they are faster than my Terapagos in this matchup because of how the speed tiers worked. I wouldn't be super fast if I wasn't Scarf. So I'm just going to click Ice Beam, and thankfully the tech does work, and we catch the Landers. It just gets absolutely blown up, which is really, really nice for me. No Landers means no rocks, which also means no Intim, which means no knockoff switching, to be honest with you. Keldeo can come in and take it a couple times, but not super well. I am going to go into my Iron Moth right here on a Fiery Dance. Again, there's an argument to be able to go into Roaring Moon, but being that I just took out the Landers, Roaring Moon looks so strong in this game, and if this Iron Moth clicks an aggressive Dazzling Gleam on the switch-in, I'm super screwed. I am super, super screwed in this endgame, whereas I know my Moth can soft check this thing, and at least trade damage on it 1v1, so that I can put myself in a better position a little bit later on. So as I do switch in on a Fiery Dance, they are going to get the boost and get the +1. Unfortunate, but lucky for me, I actually do win the speed tie the next turn. Presumably, it was a speed tie, unless they were slower on their Moth. I'm going to hit it with a Meteor Beam, doing 67. I don't need Meteor Beam for anything else. I want to put as much damage on this thing as possible. As I do, I'm clicking Sludge Wave, and I'm just going to go for the time next turn, and I thankfully get it. They went for Sludge Wave, probably expecting me to potentially Terra Fairy. And their last move was probably like Gleam and then maybe Agility, something like that. I'm not sure. So yeah, I get the Sludge Wave. This is probably the strongest like neutral click move into me. Next up, Meowscarada comes out, and I can still save my Moth, either as a sack. Yeah, really as a sack or a Pokemon that can at least outspeed Keldeo that doesn't die to Vacuum Wave from here. So that could always be nice, and I can Dazzling Gleam it with Terra Fairy for super effective damage, which is always nice. Klefki is going to come out right here. I'm going to go ahead and take 1, 2, 3 triple axles. Rocky Helmet is one of the best defensive items, if not the best defensive item in Scarlet and Violet. Change my mind. As I am just going to spike up here as Charles Cyclosaur comes out. This is fine. This coming out hard out implies probably spin. It could be overheat, but I really don't expect it. I think they're going to want to get these hazards off. They're going to really chip down their team. As they do elect to try to spin, right here, and they get off the next turn as I get off a nice and strong Dazzling Gleam, which is great, showing this thing is super, super slow. And they're going to pivot out this next turn, but again, I just spike again, you know, unless they keep spamming spin, eventually they're going to die. So I'm fine with it. Next up, I'm going to go into my Moon on this Electros. Again, I don't really want to sack health on my Tropicos. It doesn't really break it. My Klefki, I don't want to lose my helmet yet because I can just like kill Meowscarada next time it comes in. Don't want to lose my item on Serena either because I don't quite know the Keldeo set yet. So I'm going to go Moon because I don't need my Scarf anymore, right? I outspeed it on Scarf Kel. Don't outspeed it if it is, or I guess if it was Scarf Kel, it'd be a little annoying. But I can T-Wave it now. I don't outspeed the Meowscarada because it is Scarf, and I have my helmet guy, so like Spike plus helmet, good luck, right? So I figured going Moon and getting a strong knockoff on something was really nice. It either KOs Meowscarada, gets rid of Keldeo's item, 2 KOs this Electros, or blows up the Cyclozar. So no matter what, I'm completely okay with it. We do 55 to this thing, knocking off a Heavy Duty Boots, which is really, really great. And they're going to go ahead and pivot out into Keld. Totally fine with me. I'm going to pivot out on my Serena. I know anything barring specs, I do take a hit, and I'll be able to at least gauge that information right here. They showed to not be a boosting item, which is great. And I'm just going to click Power Whip. There's no switching to it, right? It kills everything on the team pretty much, until it KOs it. Out comes Cyclozar, and I have a little bit of a brain fart moment here. You'll see I realize it later. I'm faster than Cyclozar if it's paired. Like, I just am, especially being that my Klefki is faster than if it's paired, right? So I probably shouldn't have switched out here. I could have just triple axled, as they are going to go into their Keldeo this next turn. Probably pivoting, trying to get regen to not die to that attack. I'm going to Thunder Wave here too. And again, I think I could construe this as like a potential misplayer making this game a little bit more risky, because if I just lose my Klefki here, which I knew I lived one Secret Sword because it wasn't choice. If I lose my Klefki right here, there is a real chance that Meowscarada becomes a little bit scary, but I do have my Tropicos at pretty darn healthy at 84, and Triple Axel doesn't come close to killing. And it's not a move that can like crit and super kill me either, right? So that's something to keep in mind. I think I got a little silly. I think I could have probably sacked something else. I'm trying to think of what I'd sack though. I don't know. I really don't know. Because I can't take one with my Serena, but the reason I really wanted to pair this thing is because I can take one Secret Sword and then threaten this thing out immediately, because it can't Vacuum Wave me to pick me off with Queenly Majesty. So they do end up getting paired here, which is pretty lucky for me, because I am able to keep that Klefki, really, really securing that Meowscarada endgame, as they are going to have to switch out. They can't do much to me. Power Up pops, and I realize, like, oh, I can just KO this thing, right? Unfortunately, I only get one, but I realize I'm faster that time. I do get my AV knocked, but at this point, that really doesn't matter, to be honest with you. It'd be annoying if it, like, was, like, double edge and crit and killed me or something like that. I don't even know if that killed. We're fine. I'm going to go into Tropicos because Meowscarada can't kill me in one. Keldeo comes out, it can't kill me with Vacuum Wave, and I get a fat hit off right here to where I can go into Iron Moth and Revenge it, and then have Klefki for the Meowscarada potentially after I sack the Iron Moth. So there's like plenty of win pass right here. I am just going to go ahead and click Terra Starstorm as they try and Vacuum Wave. They unfortunately don't get it. We do kill them with a crit. So very lucky sequence. I think it just made my differential a lot better. I think I do still have a very clear win path at this point to where that doesn't matter. And my opponent wasn't like mad about anything either. I just want to kind of mention that in general. As this guy does come out, and again, you'll see what I was talking about earlier with Triple Axel, like literally doing zero. Not zero, but very comfortably eating that Triple Axel. And from there, I just Terra Starstorm, pick up a KO, and that's wraps. We win 5-0 pretty convincingly. I mean, the whole team was really low, so I think the 5-0 score looks a little worse than it actually was. I don't think my opponent played like very bad, and I did get a little fortunate to save Div at the end, but I don't think the game like mattered all too much, or the hacks mattered all too much in the grand scheme. I do think I still had a pretty clear win path. I could be wrong, but GG to my opponent. Week 4 is mids, I think, to where we're like, you know, we get to make the transactions on the teams we have and things like that and kind of picking it. But I'm very happy with an undefeated record going into mids. I feel very, very confident in my run so far. Especially being that I haven't had a great team tour run in years at this point, since Gen 8. So I'm definitely happy with this one so far. And yeah, we end up winning this week. I believe right after I won game, this is our 4th win. So we went up 4-1 in the series when I won, which guaranteed us a point, as in like we could at worst tie the opponent. And then our VGC player played immediately after. Who played VGC this week? It was Look It Up did. And they were able to win. And that pushes to a win, going up 5-1 or something like that, or 5-2, something like that. But yeah, nice little win. We go 2-0-1 going into mids, and we'll be back in a couple weeks with week 5. I guess a couple weeks for me. Back in like 2 seconds for you with week 5. Ariel, it is DFL week 4. It's been a little bit since I recorded this. We actually had like kind of our like bye week, like off week, mids break basically the week prior to this. So after our week 3 game, got a little bit of a break to reset. Come back strong here against Hoodles. I forget which team name they're playing for, but Hoodles is a really nice guy. Talked to him a lot before, but I actually haven't had the chance to play him, at least I don't think. So this will definitely be a fun one. And they have that kind of that Raging Bolt Aloe type structure that you see typically, run. Actually, our One Last Ride team that there should be like obviously a full run up for it at this point was like kind of structured on these types of teams, right? With like Raging Bolt, Aloe, Treads, and then like Fast Threat, and then like kind of just filler pieces to fill in the gaps from there. So they have a pretty threatening one, obviously including Dio Speed and Weavile, 2 really scary Pokemon to be honest with you. Moltres is just something I don't deal with particularly well. Terra Chestnut, which isn't ever going to Terra, but can definitely be obnoxious for some teams. I don't think my team is one of them. My 2 physical attackers are either Flying type or get Booster Acro. And then Spallout, I'm not super worried about. It actually like has no job against my team, I don't think. So that being said, let's look at our team really quick. I do have Roaring Moon. Originally, in early iterations of Mox, this was actually my lead. I was very often running like a really bulky booster attack DD set to try and nab one on lead. And it was working sometimes, but what I realized is that despite like Moon maybe getting one early, I really need Moon for later in the game to pose as like a real big initial threat to a lot of these bulkier Pokemon. And like that booster attack knockoff is so threatening into this type of team, like so unbelievably threatening. We have Earthquake just to blow up Treads because it's a big issue for the squad, and then Acro to hit the Chestnut / like good neutral coverage into like most Raging Bolt Terra types. If it's tearing out of a weakness to like Knock or EQ, it's not going to resist Acro most likely. So yeah, we're booster attack just here to do a lot of damage. And yeah, be pretty threatening. Then we have a Travagos here, which is actually going to be our lead. We're not rocking out with like our typical like Boots variant. We're actually going to be a lead Stealth Rocking Toxic variant with Terra Starstorm, Stealth Rock, Toxic, and Earth Power. Pretty much every momentum move clicked into us, we can get back via leftovers pretty comfortably, especially things like Treads trying to like, momentum out on us. Guys like a little Mola, Moltres, things like that. So we can pretty comfortably like lead Toxic into something and then like Toxic again. We get a Brox pretty comfortably if like AV Aloe wants to be the pivot, which I think AV Aloe is potentially pretty likely. I think that we do have Tarot plus Iron Moth. Both of those things are pretty obnoxious for the opposing squad. If there isn't an AV Aloe, putting a Toxic on it can be nice. Otherwise, we can just rock up. Earth Power is to hit the Tread super hard on lead because it's a very common lead that we're seeing. And with Modest, we can actually blow it up. We don't really need to set up rocks in that thing's face early because it can just kind of, spin them away afterwards. And then Starstorm's just solid, strong stab. Toxic is also great for Bolt. And you'll notice, like, my team in general really doesn't deal with Bolt long-term super well. Like Calm Mind variants can get really out of hand really fast. I don't have great initial pivots into either of its stabs either. Like Spadef Gliscor does not take it on how you think it would. It really doesn't. So having this be one of my 2 toxic Pokemon, we'll get to the other one later, is a good way of ensuring that Bolt never really gets out of hand. Next up we have Gliscor, which is Terra Ground here. One of our main Terra targets, actually. Probably our actual real main Terra target, despite Moth actually having like a change to its type. The reason being is like Earthquake is so strong with this team, right? And losing our flying typing defensively is actually really good here, making things like Ice Beam from Dio and Triple Axle from Weavile, Ice Spinner from Treads, things like that. Taking those away and not being 4 times weak to them really facilitates and like lets us set up like SD plus agility, and you'll see we do have 1 screen on the team, not double, but just our natural typing, this fat amount of Spadef we have is really nice for that. There was also a specific like team structure I was really struggling with in Mox against Money Guy, where he was bringing like very bulky Rest Talk Dragon Tail Terra Ghost Bolt, and I could not deal with it. My Gliscor was SD before, but I forget the typing it was. I think it might have been, I'm really forgetting what typing it was. Wow. It might have been Steel. I'm not sure. But regardless, we could not break through it fast enough with like EQs and things like that. But with like this investment and like SDEQ Terra Ground, even if it's like Fizdef Bolt, we can punch through it very comfortably, even if it is that Rest Talk variant. It might be able to Dragon Tail once or twice, but we're not going to have trouble with that set anymore. And killing that is really paramount in making sure that we don't just like immediately lose to 8 billion hazards plus Dragon Tailing Moon. Now, I guess we're not spin on our Tarot, but I don't imagine letting up like, 8 billion hazards from Chestnut. It was more so Rocks plus Dragon Tail always like kind of putting us in a bad spot because we couldn't break through that guy is the main idea. Then we have a Moth. We have a pretty interesting set here. Again, we're very weak to Raging Bolt, so we kind of have our like makeshift check to it here. in a pretty darn bulky Iron Moth for Fiery Dance. Still fast enough to outspeed things like Tread, so we can threaten them. But Fiery Dance, Struggle Bug, Morning Sun, and Toxic. This should deal with literally any bolt like ever. Because if it's like Terra, I guess outside of Terra Poison, but then our Gliscor deals with it, right? Because if it's Terra Steel, and same thing with Gliscor deals with Terra Steel, but if it's Terra Steel, we can Fire Dance through it. Otherwise, we can Struggle Bug it to keep it like low and weak and not doing a lot of damage. Morning Sun to keep ourselves healthy. If it's an annoying defensive typing, we can always Toxic it. If it is that Rest variant, it's not going to be Calm Mind, and our Gliscor can handle that. So this tandem of Pokemon should deal with most Raging Bolts, which is the biggest issue to our team by far. Then we have our team rounded out by 2 helmet guys. It's going to be Rotom Wash plus Klefki. Rotom is just going to kind of be a nice initial pivot into things like Weavile, things like the Moltres, things like the Iron Treads especially though, which I don't switch into particularly well. It's a pretty simple set. We're Hydro Pump, Volt Switch, Will-O-Wisp, and Pain Split. Nothing too crazy. And then we have a helmet keys here. It's going to be our main pivot into something like Deoxys. We are Fizz Def because the best way of hitting me would be like a Fire Punch. So being able to take that as well as possible is obviously really nice. It's also a great Weavile check, right? So that's obviously really nice. We're Dazzling Gleam, Reflect just for things like Weavile Treads, Mixed DO, things like that. Spikes to get them up, and Foul Play. Foul Play is nice in the means of like hitting DO super effectively, as well as like, you know, at least punishing Treads a little bit. If like we're in a position where we have like a Reflect and Spikes up, we know spin's happening, we can pretty comfortably like Foul Play into that guy, because like EQ's a hard click into our team, especially if we tear at this guy. We can pretty comfortably like take a hit, Foul Play, Helmet, and you know, that's a good amount of chip to it, right? And eventually we can put in a position where we can keep our Spikes up long term. So this definitely isn't an easy matchup. I don't have the most like great long term counterplay to Deoxys or Weavile because they both break down each other's check really well. But I do think that we have the squad to potentially take on Yhoodles, and yeah, let's jump right into that battle. Alrighty, here we are with the game against the Yhoodles. We'll see that they are Terra Ghost on the Bolt. I guess you can't see it, but I see that they are Terra Ghost on the Bolt, and they didn't bring the Chestnut. So the only thing that can Terra is that Bolt. We do see Iron Treads, Dio, Aloe, Weavile, and Moltres. Pretty honestly like what I was expecting. I can see maybe no Molt and like bring Chestnut for like a Spikes approach there, but like Dio can always have Spike too, so I don't think it's like super needed. Like I said though, we are just going to jump right into it, and I am going to lead off with my Terapagos as Dio Speed does lead here. I kind of just want to click a really strong Terra Starstorm, because in my mind they either like Hazard up here and I get a ton of damage off, but I don't think that's a likely play, right? Because I can always be spin on this, and we haven't Terra Ghosted or Bolt yet. Or they switch out, and I get hard damage on something, and if it's something I can Toxic afterwards, I'll Toxic it afterwards. So something like the Alamola. It also gives me information on whether or not that thing's AV. Or I can go ahead and Rocks Up if, you know, need be. I'm not super concerned about getting Rocks Up super early, because I know that the Treads can pivot in and kind of get off that spin. But yeah, all things to keep in mind, as they do end up leading the Dio, and they're actually going to stay and click Psycho Boost, showing that this is going to be an Eject Pack variant. I'm not quite sure what like the sequencing was with this, but I played this a lot in mocks, and I remember like very explicitly thinking this wasn't going to come. That I didn't think that Eject Pack Deoxys was going to be the lead. I figured Dio like was so strong to me, like kind of like designated to that like Spike or Eject Pack kind of role wasn't worth it. But I think it honestly goes to show that, you know, just because you don't think something is good doesn't mean it's not, and you know, your opponent can have a different vision. And I'm not saying that like I can't believe you brought this. Like legitimately, I was like, you know, really not expecting this. So it's very interesting. I don't know. We're gonna click Terra Starstorm into this incoming Raging Bolt. So honestly, great chip right here, right? 45%. This is Terra Ghost. If it does the Rest Talk variant, it's annoying, but if not, then that's unrecoverable damage, and we got off the hit before it was able to Terra. Right here, I am just gonna like to get up my rocks right here, as they do show the Draco Meteor, so this probably isn't a Rest Talk variant if it's Draco, right? It's really probably not. If it's gonna be like non-Dragon Tail Dragon Stab, it's gonna be Dragon Pulse on like a Rest variant. So that is unrecoverable pretty much. Right here, I am going to make the pivot out into my Iron Moth, as I know I take any hit from this thing pretty comfortably. As it clicks a Volt Switch, gets off a little bit of chip, as Deoxys comes back out. So good position from the opponent, they get it right back in. I'm going to go into my Klefki, as I see this as an opportunity to potentially get up Spikes. And I'm going to make a double into Rotom here. I really did expect them to like not let this guy get T-Waved, or not let me like stack max layers. But I think his game plan was very much so revolved around get up hazards, don't let the Terapagos spin, and punch through with guys like Weavile Knockoff. This shows to be, what do you call it, Boots Bolt, and then like even your own Dio and Treads. So like I understand it, but I really do think the Treads was going to come out there, and because of that, I get super punished, and triple Spike goes up in my face, and that's really bad, to be honest with you. Because now my Klefki comes back in, I just got to get up Spike again, right? So now the treads can come in for free. Not much stopping it. I'm actually going to click Reflect here because I do expect either Rocks or Rapid Spin. Either one, I can at least punish this and get up Rock, or what do you call it? A Reflect. I didn't think an EQ was super likely, being I still have full health Gliscor. I still have Rotom. I thought there's also a very real potential of a knockoff, because knocking off either Rotom or Gliscor is really, really good for him. So yeah, I'm going to sack off my Troncos this next turn, though, to Hazards, as it doesn't live anything, and I'm not Boots. They do end up going for a knockoff right there. And I see this is my opportunity to get into Gliscor, right? If they do want to stay in and knock me off, I'm going to get one free turn to set up, and then another free one afterwards. Because nothing will kill me. You know, I have my Reflect up. I can take this really well. Agility is going to pop right here. As I'm going to Terra and click Swords Dance this turn, just because of the fact I don't want to like get blown up by Ice Spinner now at this point. And we see Moltres coming in. This is where I'm really kicking myself. During the week, on both, not really Moon, we were always going to kind of have Acro on Moon, but especially in Gliscor, this fourth move outside of Earthquake was, for a lot of the week, really thought to potentially be Rock Slide. And if this was Rock Slide Gliscor, the game is over from here. Like, I just win the game. There's nothing Weavile can do to kill me at this point. Aloe's going to get blown up. Raging Bolt's going to get blown up, obviously, and can't Thunderclap me. Iron Fist gets blown up, and this Moltres would die to it. Unfortunately, I'm not. Now, this still isn't terrible. I can get burned from Willow or Flame Body, or I can get roared out. Those are the three bad things that can happen right here. I am going to go ahead and click Dual Wing Beat. Unfortunately, I do not get the kill, because it is very, very Fizz Def, and it does end up rolling me out there. So, really unfortunate. My Gliscor also now has to come in and take 4 layers of hazards. And when you're at this much of a disadvantage in the hazard game, especially in SV with no like way of removing it, the game's going to be difficult, right? So I get into my Moth, which is a bit unfortunate because it's not something that can immediately threaten the Moltres. Now what I can do is Toxic it, as it does elect to heal up, or ends up, you know, just roaring instead right here. As I get back on my Gliscor, I feel like Gliscor still had Roost. It unfortunately doesn't. I dodged another burn here, which is pretty lucky by me, but we're going to knock out the Moltres there. Out comes Weavile. I'm not just going to sack off my Gliscor. While I can't ever set up again, that EQ is still really strong. If I can click it into the Bolt or the Aloe, or I could even set up an Agility on the Aloe potentially, but there's always a Weavile Revenge with Ishar and things like that. So really just here to have a strong EQ / a sack. I have my Klefki here for a reason. If I force this triple Axle, we know that this is Boots. We're going to get a lot of helmet chip off. So, I mean, this thing's down to half, despite not actually taking hazards. If it wasn't Boots, this thing would just be dead pretty much. I'm going to go ahead and click Reflect. Hoodles makes a good play and a good bring, and clicking Brick Break. They're going to take more helmet, which is, you know, good for me. But the fact that this isn't, you know, the fact that this is Boots means I can't really, like, kill it by like having it switch back in, right? I do have my Rotom, so if I can force like a triple Axle in some way, then maybe there's a chance I could just kill it that way, but I'm also weakening myself big time for things like treads, and I'm very weak to DO speed now at this point, so I gotta be careful. I'm just going to go ahead and click Volt Switch on this Bolt that does reveal Boots, like I said before. Again, this is the Gliscor situation. I know that this is pretty offensive from the way they click Draco, so non-max defense variant should die to EQ from here because I am Terra Ground. Down it goes. Not the worst position in the world, right? Out comes Weavile, and it can't always revenge me, but I can always just sack off my Gliscor, make my Iron Moth play this time. The reason we make the Iron Moth play is because I know for a fact that I can kind of like Toxic the Aloe, or like U-turn out on it, or, you know, do a bunch of things in that regard. I can revenge this thing and live any one hit from it, or I can blow up the DO speed. They actually like to sack off the treads, which was very surprising to me. I guess not super surprising. You don't want to let your Aloe get chipped for no reason. You don't really need treads for anything anymore. My Moon can just blow it up too. So we do click Fiery Dance once, and thankfully we do have enough speed for it. I want to click again, get it twice. No boost the second time, and DO speed's going to come out right here. Unfortunately, I do have no switch in here. So what I'm hoping is that this is not Psycho Boost Superpower. If this is not Psycho Boost Superpower, or if it's not very invested Superpower, my Moon can live a hit, set up a DD, and really threaten, you know, the rest of this team. I can potentially find my way back in there. As Psycho Boost is going to come out, that also could miss, obviously, as another win condition. As we do go down right there, I'm going to make the Moon play right here, and I'm going to go ahead and click a Dragon Dance. They could just stay in and sack this thing, but again, it's also like, are they going to be Focus Blast, or going to be Superpower, things like that. We're going to click a DD here. Mole is going to come out here. It is going to be a Boots variant, so it's showing that it's probably Fizz Def. We'll be able to knock off once, do 59%, which is really nice. Play Rough is enough to KO me, which is definitely unfortunate, and I go out into my Rotom right here. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and click a nice little Volt Switch, try and pick off this Aloe right here. As the Weavile comes out, the Aloe's trying to get a little bit of regen back, makes sense. Knockoff is going to get rid of my Rocky Helmet, a little bit annoying, but not the end of the world, right? We Volt Switch here, as Aloe comes back in. Now, this play, right, I have the Dio in range of hazards, it's switched out. The fact that that Dio switched out on my Moon shouldn't have been like, oh, he can't hit me. In my head, it should have been, setting off the alarm bells of, oh, this can be Healing Wish back. In my head, I was very much so tunneling on the idea of Mirror Coat. I knew this was a very physically defensive Alamomola, so that should have taken me off 1, that probably not Mirror Coat. I know that it's not AV, that should take me off 2, it's probably not Mirror Coat. And number 3 is, even if it is, this is Max Phys Def Aloe, calced it with the Moon. That means most of the time, I kill with a Volt Switch. Very, very often. So my play here is to Volt Switch. But I was so tunneled on like AV Aloe and the Mirror Coats I was playing throughout mocks in the week and things like that, that for some reason in my head, I really, really keyed in on Mirror Coat being clicked here. So in my head, I was like, okay, I Will-O-Wisp. This is a play I made in mocks, but against AV Aloes. So keep that in mind. I made this play in mocks against AV Aloes that were not yet in range of Volt Switch, but were close to in range of Volt Switch. I would Will-O them to not get blown up by a Mirror Coat. Right here, I tunneled so hard on it being Mirror Coat that unfortunately, I Will-O-Wisp the Alamomola. I Will-O the Aloe and it Healing Wish, and I lost the game. So I kind of mind controlled myself there. And this one was really, really embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie to you. I played this one before work on like the Friday before. And I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. I've been trying to do these before and after, and I've done it with all of the ones up to this point. I could not record this one for like a week. I don't think I've thrown a game this hard in my life. But I do think it's important to talk about these things, right? And I at least want to give you my perspective on what I did. And again, when I give my perspective on that play, it's not me saying I'm correct. I'm just trying to like put you in my shoes. It was objectively a horrible play. Like a horrible play. Immediately after I clicked it, I was like, oh fuck, what did I do? And I lost, right? But I think it's important to mention these things, that sometimes you're just going to have shitty games where like you just mind control yourself, or your opponent mind controls you into giving them a win. And that's no shade to you, Hoodles, too. He played good. It was a really fun game. He brought a really fun offensive, like hash stack oriented team. And he played really well and prepped really well. And it was a really close game regardless of who won. But I did mind control myself into giving a win. I just objectively is what happened. I threw. I've had it happen before, right? Everybody throws a game or two. It's been a long time since I've thrown in Generation 9, I'll be honest with you. It's been a very, very long time since I've thrown like this. And this one was really frustrating to where I could not record. It's been about a week and a half. I'm recording this before I do my recording stuff for my next game, the week after. And I couldn't bring myself to record because it was very, very frustrating. And especially in a tournament environment like this where like, everybody else is relying on you because your wins affect their team's record, right? I'm sure if I was my captain, I'd be punching a hole through my monitor right now, So it was a tough one. This one, like, it didn't kill my motivation. I was still fine going in. I just needed a couple day break, which thankfully I played on a Friday. So like, didn't have to worry about it over the weekend. And then by the time the next matchups came out, I was good to go, ready to go. But man, was it frustrating? This is a humbling one for sure. So unfortunately, we do drop the 3-1. We're still having a good season. Our team did lose this week, unfortunately as well, and it wasn't my game that decided it, thank God, or I would have been even more upset. We just kind of got smoked this week, came back slow after mids, and weren't super engaged, in my opinion. And I talked to Nathan about that too. The team just, and myself included, I didn't help anybody. Team wasn't super engaged, and the other team was, and they just whooped their ass, and we lost. So that's a frustrating one, but all you can do is live and learn and come back and try and win in the next one, and that's what we're trying to do. We'll jump into week 5. Alrighty, this is going to be DFL week number 5, I think, yeah? I literally just recorded the week 4 stuff. Obviously, me recording the week 4 stuff, I'm still in the same clothes. I'm literally recording them back-to-back. Again, I try not to do that otherwise. We're recording these before and after. I'm about to play Isaac, and I kind of want to go over the team real quick as to, like, what we're bringing, why we're bringing it. They have a pretty scary team. It's around my favorite Pokemon ever, Terra-Zarude, Tinglu, Goldango, Sneasler, Rillaboom, Comfey with Terra, Rotom Fan, and Colossal with Terra. Some things to note: I hate Zarude. I hate him. I think so I banned him in one last ride, and a bunch of people gave me shit for it. I think it's the most like cheesy Pokemon of all time. I think it requires so much like specific prep and dedication in the builder and in the play, to where like it's so punishing. It's so ridiculous. I hate Zarude. I think he's so broken, and this team in particular does not deal well with it. I don't have a lot of the special firepower to like really break through like bulk up variants and things like that. Terrapagos is kind of fodder. I played a lot of Terra Dark and Terra Fighting in these games. Terra Fighting in particular with Drain Punch was really, really obnoxious. And then you like knock off or crunch otherwise. Really didn't deal with that combination super well. This team is like also kind of built around like the hazard stack plus Goldango kind of route, where it's hard to spin, especially with like drop into Goldango depending on what its set is and things like that. Something else to keep in mind. Rillaboom can definitely be annoying with like an SD variant. My best check to it is going to be something like an Iron Moth or like a Scarf Serena, but otherwise I don't actually deal with it very, very well, so I gotta be careful about that. Comfey with Terra would also be scary if they didn't have a Zarude, right? Like Terra ground Comfey could actually pose some pretty big issues. But I don't think it's worth conceding Terra on Zarude because Zarude is even better into me. So I think that the Comfey, if it comes, it'll be like more defensive, like Encore Synth, Drainicus U-turn type set, which is pretty good. And then Colossal is kind of holding this team together, which is really funny considering the fact that like it's a Colossal. But I want you to look at my opponent's team and I want you to look at their Scarf, or not their Scarf, their Specs Terrafire Moth Overheat Switching. It literally doesn't exist. Like it just does not exist. So that thing is really, really holding it together. For a lot of the week, I tried like a variant of like Terra Fighting Meteor Beam Iron Moth because I could like Meteor Beam the Coal and either kill it, or if I get it to +1, Terra Blast, Terra Fighting is like really strong. Potentially like plus like Flamethrower and Sludge Wave. So it was like 4 attacks. This wasn't terrible, but it was really getting struggling with hazards. And once I Terra'd, I was kind of fodder for a lot. So that's something to keep in mind. Was kind of like the original route of the team. And honestly, until the night before I'm scheduled to play this, I was really struggling with this team until I started taking some mods with the suggestion that Nozermat, one of the other players on our team who's been having a great season, suggested, and they suggested to me bringing Terra, Ground, Hisui, and Avalugg. And that is actually going to be my lead in this game. It is going to be my guaranteed Mono Terra. If you look at Mammo Swine coverage, which is what this set is, with Mountain Gale plus high horsepower, it does not have answers on this team, as it most teams don't. And this team really struggles with like super answering this. Most of the team cannot Oko this Pokemon outside of like Goldango. Plus, with how slow a lot of the fat is, mostly how slow the 2 fat mons are. In both Tinglu and Cole, you see with 84 speed, we're creeping 24 speed Tinglu on this thing, which should cover like any Tinglu. Tinglu's going to be able to get. It's not going to go fast here. With that, I can really punish that Tinglu Cole core. And if I can do that, or I can find entry points on them to either force them out or get KOs on other things. If Avalugg can pick 1 or 2, I think that's going to be the key to this game. It is our lead. It's also a great rocker. We can recover up. It's also a great Sneasler check, too. We don't need to be Terra Ghost or whatever it may be, or Terra Poison in order to check Sneasler. We just need to exist and not be weak to it, right? So, great Sneasler check. And we also have Gliscor. It's Terra Ghost in case we need it, but it's mostly there to bluff, to be honest with you. Like if we were going for like a hazard stack approach, which we have spikes on team later, so maybe they'll think twice. I don't know. Regardless, though, we are high horsepower doing beat Swords Dance Protect. Same thing, like this combination of moves is so strong in this team. Outside of Rotom Fan, nothing deals with this, and even then, Rotom Fan is like fodder for me to set up on once I get my orb procced. Comfey doesn't threaten me. I'll probably be faster than most variants. I've been faster than most Zarude variants in games. They really want to be max Spadef into like the Terrapagos Iron Moth kind of thing. And then Sneasler is walled by me. I outspeed everything else. So like once Tinglu and things like that can wall with me are chipped, this Pokemon with a Swords Dance up can literally just win the game. Protect us to keep ourselves healthy. We don't need to, agility in this game at all. And we have a Calm Mind to Rop. We're just Terra Star Storm, Flamethrower, Rock Polish, Calm Mind. Rock Polish is nice to like really, really outspeed a lot of the team. There's a lot of like potentially annoying Scarfers and Mons faster and things like that. We are Flamethrower over Earth Power for like the potential of Air Balloon / Shuka Goldango, I think is very, very likely. So I wanted to hit that. Yes, we are like technically walled by Cole, but I'm hoping that we can use Avalugg to really take advantage of Cole. As well as like even use, +1 Terrapagos doesn't like tickle, right? Terra Star Storm is still a strong move. So we are kind of conceding some coverage on Cole to potentially deal with Goldango a little bit better. So just things to keep in mind. Next up is Roaring Moon. It's going to be banned at this game. This is actually my initial Zarude switch in. Shoutouts to Zarude. The reason is once this thing bulks up, I really, really struggle dealing with it if I don't put immediate damage on it. And one of my best ways of putting immediate damage on it is going to be just clicking Outrage. This banded Outrage does a lot of damage to Zarude. There's a ton of damage to Zarude and should help us in putting it in range of other members on our team. Then we have a dual screens Klefki. It kind of really helps facilitate like these 2 guys at the top, as well as it sets up spikes pretty comfortably and pretty well. Obviously Cole can spin those, but if it's not spin Cole, we can get up spikes pretty comfortably. D-Gleam is just like stab coverage to hit like Tinglu, Terra Darkin, Fighting Zarude, things like that, but really it's just a screener and a spike of this game. We already talked about Avalugg, and then lastly, we have a Iron Moth. Once again, rocking a Toxic set. We are more offensive, Fiery Dance, Toxic, Morning Sun, and U-Turn. Toxic is to catch things like Tinglu, catch things like Bulky Synth Zarude, if it's not like Jungle Healing and it's Bulky Synth. Catch things like Comfey, which you're setting up potentially. And yeah, really just like the Tinglu, things like that. Fire Dance is pretty strong on its own, right? Like, obviously we don't hit the Coal, but unless we're Meteor Ream or committing Terror to Iron Moth, we don't hit Coal anyways, and nothing else was just fire on the team. So we can be mono Fire Dance and still pretty offensive and still be threatening to a lot of the team. Morning Sun is to keep healthy. This is going to be our main pivot into the likes of Rillaboom. Obviously, it can high horsepower and run a ground spot, but it's a hard click into my team. And it's also my main switch into Goldango. I actually really struggle with Goldango. It's not really my main switch into Rillaboom. It's a way that I don't lose to Swords Dance Rillaboom. It's actually a better way of saying it, right? Because +2 Glide is really threatening the rest of my team, especially once like Moon goes down or gets chipped. So having this as a revenge to that is really nice. As well as it's my main pivot to Goldango, because with my HP investment I don't get to a kill by Shadow Ball unless it's Specs. If it's Specs, it's got to switch because I'm gonna kill it. But yeah, that's gonna be the team versus it's either Isic or Ice. I know, I'm not quite sure. We're gonna jump into it and kind of see how things go. Alrighty, gang, here we are. We are connected with We connected with Isic here, and we see. Forgetting that I'm post-com. We see his Terra Dark Zarude, which is something I played a lot. It was like a lot of Dark because Nox is so strong into my team. Nox/Crunch is really spammable. And then I saw a lot of fighting for like Drain Punch and things of the sort. So definitely a big issue. Kind of the biggest issue on the opposing team, to be honest with you. We do see the Colossal did show up as well. It is Terra Water, but I really don't expect it to Terra Water. We see no Comfey, so that's something that's really good for us. Our Roaring Moon is like unguardable, so if you can position that early and not have to burn it just for Zarude, we're going to be in a really commanding position here. So yeah, that being said, let's jump into it. We are going to lead with our Avila Kasui, and unfortunately one of the worst leads humanly possible for me leads in the Rillaboom. I can take anyone hit with Sturdy, but I don't want to. So I'm going to switch out into my Iron Moth as we do see a U-turn here. Get a little bit of leftovers back. Unfortunately, Colossal comes out, who's a big nuisance, very annoying. I get on my Gliscor because I figure this is a Rock's turn. I don't think a Wisp is coming out, like, literally ever. I think it's a really aggressive play. And thankfully it didn't. Roxanne comes out, I get poisoned, and I'm going to pivot on to Avila right here. As we see the Rillaboom pivot back out. So hard, what do you call it? Rillaboom makes sense, I guess, in the sense of like ground move coming out potentially. Obviously, if I flying move there, I'm kind of a demon, but I don't think that's a great play, to be honest with you. Iron Moth's going to come out here again on a U-turn. I can't risk staying with my Avalok. It is so strong. I don't want to just risk it for no reason. I'm going to go ahead and click U-turn one more time on this Coal, get onto my Avalok, and I really just want to start throwing off attacks right here. So this is an interesting turn, right? Because the entirety of my opponent's team is weak to one of my two moves, and high horsepower and Mountain Gale. Gale, high horsepower, Gale, high horsepower. And it has the potential to 2-hit KO or OHKO literally everything on the team right now. In my mind, I don't think you want to sack off your Colossal. I think this is the only Pokemon that really checks Iron Moth. I guess outside of Tinglu, but again, if I'm Specs, you really struggle with that. And you don't know what my set is yet. I've just clicked U-turn, hazards haven't been up. So I'm actually going to make a pretty aggressive play and click a Mountain Gale, expecting something like a potentially like hard Rillaboom again, or potentially even like a Tinglu pivot through high horsepower into something else. So they do make the hard Goldango play though, which I did get incorrect. I didn't want to Terra immediately. And unfortunately, it just doesn't do that much to gold. It shows leftovers gold, so that's good to know. I thought that was a pretty aggressive play. And you're going to see it's kind of a trend. My opponent plays very aggressive in the early game. And I think it's just kind of due like the circumstances they were put in. This Avalok set probably wasn't tested into a lot, to be honest with you. And I don't think it's like a, create like shade at them for not testing into it. I probably wouldn't have tested into the shit, right? So because of that, my opponent has to make a lot of soul reads to get, kind of proper positioning. But I feel like this has thrown him off to the point and putting me in such a good position that I don't have to like get every play right immediately. As long as I don't sack off things I don't need to sack off, I'm in a good position here. I can play pretty slowly here. So I'm going to make the Iron Moth play. Unfortunately, we do get Spadef dropped right here, which we would have probably with another one / been able to Morning Sun pretty comfortably on this thing. I'm going to U-turn again. My opponent plays very aggressively, wants to stay in. Click a Make It Rain, expecting me to, or click a Shadow Ball, maybe expecting me to try and heal up, and expecting me to not, fire move, whatever it might be. Thankfully, it is just a Shadow Ball. We pop our form, and I'm going to get back out into Moth, because I know if anyone hit from this thing, if they do Make It Rain here to try and pop my, what do you call it? My shell. They could have also Focus Blast if they hadn't, I guess. But here I'm just going to go ahead and Morning Sun. I need to stay healthy. I need to make sure I'm guaranteed out of range of a Shadow Ball. The next turn I can U-turn on Colossal and go on to my Avalon because they do end up clicking Rock Tomb. Now, again, this is one of those positions where I'm like, I really think they need the Coal. I'm going to Mountain Gale, especially being that I got the play last time wrong. They're going to expect me to high horsepower, and they're going to go into something else that, isn't weak to ground in the Tinglu. But they actually end up staying in here. I am still faster because I'm 84 speed Avalug, the GOAT. So this thing is stupid fast, making this thing stupid slow. And I'm going to get a flinch here, which is pretty darn lucky. Can't lie to you. Pretty great, especially if they end up clicking like a Wisp or anything like that. Tinglu's going to pivot out. I'm going to click high horsepower here. I'm done playing around this guy. I click high horsepower. I do 49 on a crit, which is really nice. The crit is really good because it guaranteed puts him in range of a Mountain Gale here. Getting no value to Tinglu is bad. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I just said I'm not going to play around this guy in like the aggressive plays anymore. I'm just going to attack what's in front of me kind of thing. I lied. I'm going to click high horsepower here because I really expect the aggressive Goldango pivot to get them back into this. And we're going to catch it and just Oko that guy. Good freaking night. Avalug is going to switch out here. I don't want to sack it yet. Like, I could trade this for Rillaboom very comfortably, but I like keeping it as a secondary Sneasler check because I'm a very offensive Gliscor. So if it's like an SD set, I think having Avalug at full health is actually really, really valuable. So make the pivot into Klefki. They're going to go ahead and U-turn. Unfortunately, we're light playing on Rocky Helmet this week as the Rude comes in. It's Terra Dark. I'm like, okay, is this going to be weakness policy? I don't really want to proc it with a weak-ass Dazzling Gleam. They're going to go ahead and bulk up here as I get out into my Moon. They Terra Dark here as I click Outrage. And it's 48. It's banded. It's banded. Now, this Drain Punch back shows me that they have, like, no investment. Showing that they're either max HP, max speed, or max bulk. Probably in Spidef, because that's just max HP plus 1 kind of calcs. So what that does for me, it allows me to go into Tropicus. If they are faster than me and they want to break my shell here, what I can do is I know I live 2 Drain Punches with shell into +1 super effective Drain Punch, so I can Terra Starstorm, keep this thing low. If they're like super slow and I don't do that much damage with my Terra Starstorm, I can adjust from there and either Calm Mind or kind of deal with it accordingly. So I am going to go into my Terapagos here. It's really my only Pokemon that immediately threatens this. We click a faster Terra Starstorm, showing this is like max Spidef, it only does 37, and they eat a Moringa Berry, making it to where they can very, very comfortably heal off my Terra Starstorms from this position. They do end up clicking Jungle Healing, so Toxic isn't going to be working in means of me breaking this down, which makes sense with the amount of Toxic I have on my team. And this turn I am going to elect to Calm Mind right here, just trying to boost up to get back to about neutral with them, as they're actually going to go ahead and Jungle Healing again. I'm fine with that, because it gives me a second Calm Mind, and now I'm out damaging my Terra Starstorms from before, and this thing still hasn't broken my shell. I told you I live Drain Punch into Drain Punch, so as long as I can do that, we're in a good spot. Crunch comes out, and it does a lot. I live Crunch into Drain Punch, and I live Knockoff into Drain Punch, but I didn't live if they got a defense drop. Thankfully they didn't, because I think the game would have been over. I'm going to get a 45 right here, which is really nice. I'm not going to be able to quite 1v1 this thing, but I am going to be able to keep it plenty low. It's not going to be able to heal off with the Jungle Healing at this point, and I'm going to be able to bring it down to 13 as Tropicus dies. And again, this is my argument for why I think Zarude is so stupid. I gave it my 2 best Pokemon to bring it to 13%. You're telling me that this isn't one of the best Pokemon in the format, or it isn't super broken? I know I have a bad matchup into it, right? Like, it's not like every matchup is this bad and Zarude. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. My whole team was at full at this point, pretty much. Like, my whole team was at full, and I'm immediately crazy far on the back foot because I had to stack my whole team to beat a Zarude. Thank God there's no Healing Wish on this team. If I had to deal with this guy again, you're not hearing from me for a while. As the what do you call it? Ironmouth comes out, I am forced into a Fire Dance here. I'm not U-turning and then losing the game. So I'm gonna click Fire Dance. I did guarantee kill +1 from there. The goal comes out and shows to actually not be Flash Fire, so probably Flame Body here, which is pretty interesting. As I am just gonna go ahead and U-turn here. Get down to my Avalug, as I believe they end up clicking Rock Tomb. They end up missing, which doesn't matter because I'm still faster than them as we showed. And they're going to stay and sack it off. I guess it could have been annoying for Tinglu, but whatever. Rillaboom is going to be the switch out here as I do go into my Klefki, as I know I can take any one hit from this thing. It does Woodhammer and show to be banded as hell, which is very, very scary, but it's okay. We take the hit decently well enough. I'm going to go ahead and click Reflect here. As the Sneasler comes out, and from here I can pivot on my Gliscor. I know I can take anything from this thing that it wants to go for. It's going to Brick Break, so it's very anti-screens tech, which makes sense, especially when the Sneasler isn't great in this kind of matchup, typically. Out comes the Tinglu, and I'm just going to Sword Stance. If this Tinglu wants to be Whirlwind, that's fine. I get off a +2 high horsepower, and if it's not Whirlwind, I'd like you to look at my opponent's team, and I'd like you to look at my max speed Gliscor, my very close to max speed Gliscor that outpaces Rillaboom. The game's over. So I'm just going to SD up here. I'll go ahead and click high horsepower. If they're Ruination, I win. If they're Payback, I win. If they're anything but Whirlwind, I win the game immediately and I can still win later with it. So I'm going to go ahead and just high horsepower twice. They end up showing Payback. And at this point, it's just a matter of hitting our moves, right? Rillaboom can come out, but what I'm going to do is just protect and get a little bit of Poison Heal back, see what this thing wants to lock into. End up locking Woodhammer, which is great because I think they're just banking on the fact that I'd be a slower Gliscor. I am not. I'm just going to go ahead and Oko this thing with a dual Wing Beat. And then from here, it's, again, just a matter of hitting my moves. Zarude would have to dodge a lot of moves, but it's the most scary Pokemon at this point. Thankfully, we don't miss. We hit it with a high horsepower. We knew we were faster because our drop was faster. And then Dire Claw's going to come out. Doesn't matter, we're already status. So we're good to go. We're able to knock this guy out. And, really bounced back. Avila going crazy, getting 2 kills, which is really good. Really setting up that Gliscor endgame. We can come in, SD, and just win. To be fair, I think my opponent's team in general was incredibly weak to this SD Gliscor set, even that it wasn't Ruination like Fizdef, Tinglu. So it's just a matter of like kind of positioning this. Even if the Goldango and the Colossal were still alive, they also died at +2 high horsepower. So we were in a pretty good position and we were able to win. So we'll bounce back. We moved to 4-1 after 5 weeks. Next week is week 6. I don't know who we play or when we play them, but hopefully we'll get another dub then. And I guess I'll see you guys for that one. Alrighty, DFL week 6 against Elevated. This is before we're going up against them. We unfortunately had to play another like Meow Terra-Held team, which if you remember, I forget which week it was, week 2, week 3, one of the weeks, we actually played a team very similar to this. It's a pretty common like team archetype. We were able to win that one off the back of like Scarf Terapagos and pretty cool team. Unfortunately, the team we're playing now does have a normal resist. In fact, they have a resist and immunity, so it's a little bit more difficult for us to try and, you know, handle them, or handle this team, in my opinion. Definitely got our work cut out for us. This is a team that we end up rocking with, though. We have a Choice Band Roaring Moon. It's actually going to be my lead. Really, really strong in this matchup. Pokemon like Mew kind of get blown up unless they're like Fairy. Neutrally, and if the Mew is tearing, that also means that the Keldeo isn't. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm actually pretty confident the Mew will not be tearing, which is great. And other than that, it's like a really, really strong click into like Corviknight. It takes advantage of Sableye, things like that. We're Crunch as well in order to hit things like, you know, the Pokemon on the team that might be losing their item to knockoffs and things like that throughout the game or whatever it may be. So I kind of like the consistent damage output of Crunch in an endgame scenario, but knockoff is really spammable. Outrage is really strong here. No Fairy. So yeah, strong Pokemon in general. We have Terrifier Moth here. It's kind of the centerpiece to the team. The whole idea of the team is to get up hazards and really punish either passive Roost play from Corviknight, passive Defog play from Corviknight, or really any passive play in general from the opposing team. Get in our Terrifier Moth and just click Fiery Dance Overheat. Really, really strong Pokemon here. Dazzling Gleam is good for Garchomp / Keldeo that doesn't want to Terra because it doesn't want to lose its fire resistance in our face. So Dazzling Gleam will blow that thing up at +1. Faster than pretty much everything not named Meowscarada, which is great. We have a Terra Steel Gliscor. We are Max Fizdef here. Earthquake, U-Turn, Stealth Rock, Toxic. It's going to be our Rocker here. Toxic is good for the likes of Mew, Garchomp, things like that. Keldeo on the switch in as a means of really chipping them down. It really takes advantage of Sableye as well. Another reason I don't think Sableye is really going to be coming. And again, really forces those U-turn sequences where like Corviknight has to come in on this thing. We get in a U-turn and we get in a Moth. We get to click a button. So really, really nice in that regard. We have a Rock Ball Terap. I think like if we can chip down the opposing team enough, Pokemon like Keld are gone. Really, as long as Keld is gone, the team is pretty weakened. Rock Ball's Terap is a great win condition with Terra Starstorm Gleam, covers Garchomp, kinda, but mostly just hitting Sableye super effectively. Flamethrowers for the Corviknight, obviously, and then Rock Ball should get some speed up. We have enough speed for Scarf Meow, which I think is a potential really likely thing. When you play Moon, you see a lot of Scarf Meows. Buff is simple. D-Gleam, T-Wave, Spikes, and Reflect. This is here to Spike. It's here to check Meowscarada. It's also here to T-Wave the Corviknight. Again, if Corviknight wants to come and try and defog, we can like T-Wave it the first time, Spike the second time, Hard Moth right there afterwards, and we should always kind of keep a Spike up, which is really, really nice. And then we have a very physically defensive AV Serena. Takes any 2 hits from like Fighting or Specs. Keldeo, like Secret Sword. We should take it on decently well. It gives the Rapid Spinner. Also like a soft check to Garchomp as well, being that we're like Fizdef and AV in case it's like mixed special or something like that. So Yeah, pretty simple team. I'm not super confident in this one, to be honest with you. I didn't run a lot of mocks for this one, and when I did, just earlier this morning, I really struggled with Terra Ghost Keldeo, so we'll see how that ends up going, if that ends up coming. I'm definitely a little bit worried about this one. I can't lie to you. I'm not feeling as prepared as I was in all of the other games this season, so we'll see how it goes. Let's jump into it. Alrighty, here we are with the battle against Elevated right here. You can see the team then bring Terra typing wise. It is Water Keld and Fighting Mew. I really don't expect the Mew to want a Terra in this battle. I really do think Keldeo wants that extra boost from Water. Though I guess I really do kind of expect, I did really expect Terra Fighting on the Keld, so I'm not quite sure exactly, at least on Team Preview, what Fighting Mew means here. My team doesn't generally have great fighting resist. Like fighting ice is pretty strong here, so it could be like DD close combat, like DD drain punch, or like SD drain punch. It could be like nasty plot with like vacuum wave. Like maybe there's like some Terra fighting breakpoints that really help out with Rolling Moon. So something I kind of wanted to keep in mind here. But other than that, so a lot of things I really did expect, and I didn't see Ghost Keldeo, which is like the best thing. I got smoked in a mock against Mishmish with that, and I didn't really see a lot of great play paths and consistent positions to win that. So yeah, let's see what we ended up rocking with here. So I'm going to lead off with my Roaring Moon here, as Meowscarada does lead. This is probably like the one lead I do have to switch out on. This and Keldeo, I could totally switch out on Keldeo in case it's Scarf. But because of the fact that I do have a really good Klefki switch-in, or Meowscarada switch-in Klefki, sorry, I feel pretty comfortable pivoting out immediately into my Klefki. As U-turn does pop, it shows to not be banded there, so all good information to know. Gets a little bit of helmet, so not pads as well. Makes me think really likely Choice Scarf. So I am going to go out into my Gliscor here as it ends up Fire Blasting. Fire Blast is like a cool mid-ground, as in it hits like Ground Resist Serena, it hits Air Balloon or Magnetize Klefki, as well as like hits his Gliscor hard technically, but I do dodge it on the switch in, which is nice. We're going to trade Rocks right here, showing that it is a Rocks like mixed attacker set. That Fire Blast does a ridiculous amount of damage, by the way, as I'm going to take 43, so that's like max special attack. Then I'm going to go ahead and U-turn out into my Roaring Moon. And I'm just going to click U-turn right here. I really don't think they're going to want to sack off the Garchomp here, because it actually does not have great counterplay on my team defensively. So I figured U-turning out, catching this Corviknight was good. It also gives me some information that this thing is Helmet, no like random Aqua Berry, no like random Scott. Like it's really what we expected in Rocky Helmet here. So I'm going to get onto my Moth. I see this is my opportunity to get in and Fiery Dance. If this Araquanid is not Boots, I actually hit it very, very hard, which is really nice. I'm going to go ahead and Terra Fire. Fiery Dance, do about 25, showing this thing is pretty bulky and it is Boots, like pretty spadef. But that plus U-turn is going to keep this thing nice and low, especially when you take into account that we are Rocky Helmet Klefki. Now, Liquidation does a lot of damage, unfortunately, right? But we do keep this thing nice and low. We can go ahead and get up a Spike and then still like reflect up and kind of like play the game with Corviknight a little bit here. And we're keeping this thing really low here, which is great. I do end up reflecting first because I will live one more Liquidation into getting up a Spike afterwards, plus like get the 2 helmet turns opposed to 1, but they do actually end up resting right here, which is a little bit unfortunate, but not the end of the world. They're going to show Rest Talk here, and they're going to get a rest right here, so nice free turn for me. Corviknight's going to go ahead and pivot out right here and be the pivot of choice. I believe I do just get up another Spike. If they are defog, that's fine with me. I'm going to get a free T-Wave off right here, and potentially get a Para on it trying to defog as well. So all things to keep in mind. Garchomp is going to come out as I set up another Spike here, not super worried, and I am going to go ahead and reflect up as Fire Blast does end up picking up a KO right here. So we ended the exchange with a screen and the Spike up, but we are very weak to the Meowscarada. Like incredibly weak to the Meowscarada. I am going to go into my Roaring Moon here. Just going to click Knock Off as it is just a certified KO at this point. There's not much that switches in. Keldeo can, but like taking Spike plus Banded Knock isn't good, and it doesn't want to switch in on like a Dragon Claw here at all either. So Corviknight made a lot of sense from the opponent. They're going to go to the Meowscarada, and I'm actually going to go ahead and try and sack off my Roaring Moon. The other thing that'll kill me is Triple Axle. So if they U-turn, I get a Banded Knockoff into something. Beautiful, right? Because of the reflecting up. If they Triple Axle, I'm able to reset tempo and get out into something that really threatens them, especially being that their choice. I really think their choice locked into that. I get into my Moth, and I basically get another KO is kind of how I'm trying to play this game. But unfortunately, they're actually going to end up missing here, and that's just going to mean another KO for Moon. It's really unfortunate for my opponent. I do feel bad. This game can obviously play out very differently than it ends up playing out, and we do confirm Scarf here if we didn't just completely dodge that. Now it did need 3 hits to kill me, being that it was Choice Scarf behind the Reflect, but obviously that's more likely than them missing the first one, right? So really, really unlucky turn there. because I'm not only going to be able to KO this thing, I'm going to be able to use my moon later. I'm going to be able to save it from this point. So I'm going to go hard into Serena right here as they do end up Calm Minding. Because this is Terra Water, I have a very comfortable Power Whip on this turn. You can kill it very, very comfortably, in fact, because there's not really great resistances to this Pokemon. As Mew is going to be the switch-in of choice, we are going to see, we do miss the Power Whip. Can't complain too much after dodging the triple axle, though. So that's just life. That's how it is. Would have done a lot of decent damage here, as it shows Body Press as its fighting move of choice. So part of me was thinking this was like some Iron Defense Body Press type stuff. We're going to be able to get off a nice and strong U-turn off here. 25%, nice and strong, by the way. And get onto our Roaring Moon. The reason I want Roaring Moon here is because I don't know what the rest of this moveset is. If it's like random T-Wave, it can kind of like cripple my Moth and lose me the game. Same thing with like Tarop. I don't want to prop Tarop's Shell yet because it's nice and not losing to Garchomp just yet. So I'm going to go Roaring Moon because there's no Dragon Resist on this team, right? They can burn Terra on this, and that's incredible for me. I get a Choice Band Outrage off on something, and this Mew either takes 1,000,000,000% or something else is going to die, is basically how this exchange ends up rolling. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Outrage, do 63% to the Mew, as it does pick me off with the Body Press, showing it's a very defensive set. But again, this is completely fine, because what this also does is this positions a Fiery Dance here on this Mew. So I am going to go ahead and click Fiery Dance. Again, not great switch-ins to this move in general. Pick this thing off, get a nice little +1 boost, as Araquanid is going to come out and be the switch-in of choice. Now, I'm going to go ahead and U-turn here, do a little bit of chip damage, get into my Gliscor, because what this does is if they get a bad Sleep Talk and don't get Liquidation, I actually do guarantee get up my Rocks, which is really nice. And if they get a good Sleep Talk roll, I get a Liquidation and I die. And this also gives me a potentially free switch in to my Terapagos. And if it's like Webs, it gives me a free switch in to my Serena. I just want to confirm that's not like Leech Life or something like that. So I am going to go ahead and switch in. We do get Liquidation pulled, but not the end of the world. Gliscor didn't really have a defined role at this point anymore. And now I'm going to go into my Terapagos. I'm going to kind of leverage the shell here in order to force some damage on this, because this Terra Starstorm is a KO pretty much. Unless they leave the Araquanid in and try and like play with rest turns, which they can. Garchomp is going to die after Spike for sure. The Keldeo can come in, but it's Terra Water, so it's not like I can get out of a weakness to Starstorm, so I can just Starstorm, pick it off. Pretty nice, right? Or I could do a ton of damage to this thing right here and really set up this Iron Moth endgame, which is what I'm trying to go for. So I'm going to click Terra Starstorm here. They're going to wake up, break my shell here with the Liquidation to 31, which is crazy damage. Unfortunately, get the defense drop. Defense drop means I pretty much guarantee die to this next one. Otherwise, I could like Rock Polish in this position and be in a really good spot. But regardless, I am just going to go ahead and click Terra Starstorm here, do a decent chunk of damage, force a rest here. 40 to 45 is crazy damage, by the way. Gonna go ahead and click Terra Starstorm again. I want to keep this thing low. Thankfully, they show Endeavor as the last move, so one, I know my Serena does like somewhat kind of check this. I don't want to get Endeavor, that's for sure. But Terra Starstorm into another Terra Starstorm will put this thing in range of the Iron Moth. So I just need to either keep this low and kind of go from there. So we are going to go ahead and see yet another Endeavor on the Sleep Talk here, and this thing has burned all of its turns with sleep. But now I'm in a position where I'm like, okay, I think my only way of losing this game is Garchomp getting off a Scale Shot, because what Garchomp getting off a Scale Shot does is it obviously makes it to where it outspeeds my Iron Moth. My Serena does not die to any one hit, but in order to kill it, I have to go and want to either hit like a Power Up or a Triple Axle. I think Power Up at that point, right? Which is all fine and dandy, but then I just lose to Keldeo. I can't kill Keldeo from the range it's at. It's Terra Water, so it's not going to get blown up by like an Overheat. It's not going to get blown up by a Dazzling Gleam, whatever it may be. So I want to try and force my opponent into a position where they can't come in and Scale Shot on me. I don't know what these last moves are. It very well could just be EQ Scale Shot, right? And just be Life Orb, Scale Shot for the boost, and then like Fire plus EQ is really strong into my team potentially. So I am just going to go ahead and Rock Polish here, because what this does is punishes a rest, and potentially if they get like bad rest turns or I get a crit, I can just, you know, prevent the Garchomp from, you know, Scale Shotting up that way and forcing Keld, or I can keep this thing low enough to put it in range of Iron Moth in the back. So that's kind of the idea here. I am going to go ahead and click Rock Polish as they do wake up and just go for Liquidation. Perfect. We're able to die here, kind of double or stack our thing off tactfully or as tactfully as we can. Click a Fiery Dance. Unfortunately, we don't get a boost here, which is a little worrying. But what I can do from this position is I can go ahead and U-turn out into my Serena. If they Calm Mind, I live a +1 Secret Sword from here. I live Surf into Secret Sword because I'm very, very defensive, like very physically defensive. And then from there, as long as I hit a Power Whip, we should be in a position to potentially do okay. So we're going to see a Surf right here. Only does 20%. We are guaranteed out of range of any hit this thing wants to go for. I am just going to go ahead and click a nice strong Power Whip. Able to take out the Garchomp, which is great. And then lastly is going to be the Keldeo, and now it's just a matter of can we dodge crit / live a Secret Sword. I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't calc the secret sword for me. I said, okay, I either live and win the game if I hit a power up, or I die / miss power up and I lose the game. Not really much of an out other than that. So I am going to go ahead and just stay in, click power up. We actually lived that very comfortably. Shout out to Serena. And we're able to get yet another kill with Serena, pick off the Keldeo hitting the power up, and take home a nice 2-0 dub. Again, pretty fortunate in that one. I can't lie to you. I don't know if there was a better play other than sacking Klefki in that instance. Maybe I should have kept it around a little bit, because Meowscarada was very, very scary in that endgame scenario if we didn't, just dodge it. And we also got to keep our Moon to click a Bandit Outrage into the Mew. So the game definitely plays differently. I'm not sure how it plays differently. It's probably in my opponent's favor, to be honest with you. We definitely can still win that game if we sack our Moon there. I wouldn't have made that play if I was convinced I'd lose no matter what anyways. I mean, maybe it was the case and I just got that play completely wrong. But regardless, I did get very lucky in that one specific turn right there. So apologies to Elevated. He had a cool team, played a good game, and got a little fortunate, and we're able to take home a dub here and move on to 5-1 going into the final week. And I'm not sure if we're playing the final week yet. Like, if I'm playing specifically, I don't know. It's really honestly just kind of a matter of like, can I like fight for MVP? If I can, like if I'm still in the race, I'm probably gonna play. If not, I might take the week off. Who knows? But regardless, I'll see you guys the next time we play. We also might be fighting for playoffs, to be fair. I don't know how this series is gonna end up going. We're like not doing great right now. So if we're fighting for playoffs, I'll definitely play too. Okay, enough waffling. I'll see you guys next time we play. Alrighty, it is the final week of the I almost said Grand Challenge because I've been playing VGC all weekend. It is our final week of DFL. Regular season, at least, we are clinched for playoffs going into this week, but I want to do well because there's a chance, depending on how other players do, that if we win this week, we could end up with the #1 overall record in Scarlet and Violet, which should be pretty cool. Nice little flex. So we're definitely going to be trying this weekend something pretty hard. We're playing against Fire Chicken here, and this is the first time I think I've played like a Terra Tusk comp all season. So we actually get to play something new, which is cool. We've been playing a lot of Meowkelds and very similar team structures lately, so this is definitely exciting. I'm happy about this. But we see Terra Tusk, Cinderace, Jirachi, Zapdos, Primarina, Qwilfish, Sui, Ogerpon, and Terra Mischievous. Now, big issues right off rip. Cinderace is a huge problem. I really do not switch into a combination of Pyro Ball plus High Jump Kick. Not a lot of teams do, but our team in particular really does not have the long-term counterplay for that, especially if it's like Bandit or whatever it may be. Even just like Powerball into U-turn kind of just like puts my defensive pieces like Rotom in range of being 2-hit KO next time I cut it. So gotta be very careful about that thing. It's probably the biggest threat to me in my opinion. Terra Tusk is always going to be a problem. Don't deal with it super well. Zapdos offensively is also incredibly scary here. There was a mock that I played against Money Guy, and you'll see even despite having like a Terra Electric Gliscor, those are pretty offensive. We played a sub-pressure Metal Sound Throat Spray set, and it put me in a blender. It was really, really annoying to deal with. I don't have good Prim counterplay. I don't have a lot of good defensive counterplay to a lot of the offensive threats in the team. Thankfully, it's really just those four that I think are really scary offensively. Ogerpon can be a little bit annoying, but not really. It's more so annoying when it like spikes and U-turns into the other big threats. But I feel pretty confident into most of this team. Other than those like big main four of Tusk, Cinderace, Zapdos, Prim. So you gotta be very, very careful about those. We can see the team that I'm bringing. I'm bringing a little bit more of an offensive build because I don't think I have the long-term staying power to surround and be bulky. I don't know why. This week we have Tarop first. Tarop is pretty simple this week. It's just kind of a normal spin, earth power, rapid spin, calm mindset. Nothing crazy. It can win in the late game. Spin is great for like the potential hazards of like Qwilfish and Ogerpon, things like that. So my team doesn't love it, but it's also to supplement Terapagos in the sense that it lets me rapid spin up and get a little bit faster and be faster than everything that's not a Scarfer. Terra Starstorm is incredibly strong. We're Terra Starstorm Earth Power. We are technically walled by Mischievous, right? So gotta be careful about Missy. Does wall my Terapagos completely and utterly, like just puts me in a blender. So I actually really do expect Missy to show up potentially. I think it's better than Qwilfish in this game for sure. So it definitely can show up for sure. Then we have a Terra Electric Gliscor. Earthquake plus Terra Blast is really strong into this team. Facade would be better if I wasn't worried about Mischievous. I didn't want to have two of my offensive win cons walled by Mischievous, like completely. So we are Terra Blast instead. Another thing that Terra Blast does that's really nice is it gives me like a nuke on Prim at +2, which is really nice. Now this does mean that we aren't able to immediately break through Ogerpon, but hitting it with the Terra Blast or an Earthquake or excuse me. That plus like the helmet that we have on Serena is hopefully going to be enough to chip it down to where we can move the Gliscor later. We do just have to get some prerequisite chip on Ogerpon. Plus it's hard for them to use Ogerpon as their initial pivot in, right? The reason we're Terra Blast over Dual Wing Beat too is because like while that would hit Mischievous, I don't want to be walled by Zapdos, especially because those sub pressure sets are really difficult for me to deal with. So I want to be able to hit it neutrally with a Stab Terra Blast. So that's how we got it. Then we have a Roaring Moon, another very simple set. We're just max, knock, outrage, acro, dragon dance. Something I really like about this set is it really puts on a ton of pressure on the opposing side to where I either get a +1 outrage into Tusk, or I get a +1 acro with a booster attack into Primarina, which is a ton of damage. Again, things like Zapdos can knock great. This doesn't ever win the game. It's really here to force awkward positions and chip down some annoying threats on my opponent's team, and I think it does a really good job at doing that, and I think it finds a few pretty awesome setup opportunities too. Then we have an Iron Moth. This really isn't meant to Terra. Water is just like kind of a bluff into like Prim, I suppose. Make it think about clicking surf into us, but a pretty simple set though. It's still really strong here offensively. For Fire Dance, Sludge Wave, U-turn, and last move Overheat. Like Fire Dance boost into like +1 Overheat is just a nuke on like 99% of this team, if not 100% of it, right? So that's what we have it. We're just max again. Time the Ogerpon. Pretty simple stuff. This is a very simple, straightforward team. Weirdest thing we have is probably this Rotom. It is Choice Scarf, but it's very defensive, so we can pivot in on things like Primer or Cinderace. Maybe it feels comfortable clicking Power Ball, sees we're defensive. It's like, okay, I'm just going to U-turn, get my chip, and then I blow it up with a Hydro Pump, which is great, right? It's also Pokemon that's faster than Great Tusk, depending on its Terra typing. We can hit it really hard with a Hydro Pump or a Thunderbolt or a Volt Switch, whatever it may be. We do have a Trick Scarf in case like Mischievous gets really annoying for us to deal with. So yeah. Then lastly, we have Serena. It's Fish Def. It's here to pivot into likes of Great Tusk. It's because I don't want to stretch Rotom too thin, and Rotom doesn't take close combats from Great Tusk, right? I can only pick to like pivot into one of these guys like once or twice. Can't do both, so Serena gives me that. Lets me turn around forever, and also checks Ogerpon really well. It gives you something that outspeeds most Prims and can threaten it with a Power Whip, even if we are a more defensive variant. So yeah, pretty simple team, pretty offensive, but you know, I think it'll get the job done. We'll see. Let's jump into the battle. All right, here we are. We're connected with good old Fire Chicken or Fuego Pollo. I thought Fuego was like, that's hot, like hot, not fire. But hey, I don't speak Spanish. I took 3 years of Spanish in high school. Fun fact, as they always say, you don't remember any of that shit. Regardless though, pretty simple self-explanatory what I thought they would bring. We have Terra Grass on the Tusk and Terra Fairy on the Mischievous. Makes sense, right? Lets you resist things like moons, things of the sort. I don't think it's going to Terra though. I really do think that the Terra option is going to the Great Tusk, because Misty doesn't want my Tarot to be able to hit it with Terra Starstone, right? So Grass is for sure interesting. Unless it's like Scarf, my, what do you call it, is going to check it very well. My Gliscor looks weaker and weaker though the more I look at this team, because it is Grass Tusk, and it's going to be, there's going to be no Ogre on the other side. So you got to be careful with that Gliscor. I don't know if it wins, but maybe you can force them into some uncomfortable positions and situations and things like that. But regardless, let's jump into it. We do see an Ogerpon lead. I'm going to lead with our Rotom. I did forget to mention the team builder. The lead was always going to be Rotom. Very often in mocks, I was catching people off guard by just being Scarf defensive Rotom and being able to pick off Cinderace and things like that. Plus, not like my opponent switches into Hydro Pump super well, because Ogerpon really worries about coming in on a Wisp, especially if they like lead Cinderace and I just make an aggressive play and call the U-turn. Wisp was pretty free into this team, right? So yeah, it was a pretty strong lead here. I'm going to lead into the Ogerpon. I'm not going to risk them being Scarf or reveal that I'm Scarf for like 10% damage on a Volt Switch. So I'm just going to hard out into my Serena. If they want to U-turn, they can U-turn. They actually end up cudgeling, which I'll take. I'm just going to go ahead and U-turn myself, get a little slow momentum. We do see that static Zapdos, so that makes me a lot less worried about this being like the sub-metal sound set, or just like sub-pressured or, you know, PV stall on my stuff. So I get into Gliscor. I can pop my form right here. I figured that showing Terra Electric would force this thing out immediately, potentially into an Ogerpon, to either like Encore me or whatever it may be. So I actually ended up clicking Terra Electric, Terra Blast right here, just to do as much damage as possible. I do 31, which is nice, but oh my goodness, is that offensive. 41% is a lot. This makes you think they might even want to stay in potentially, so I'm going to SD. They do end up staying in. I am faster, so it's good to know. They're like bulky offensive. As they do get into Ogerpon, this is unfortunate. This like screams Encore on this turn, so I'm going to make the play into my Serena. If they U-turn, good on them. They'll at least take Helmet. I'm Fish Def, and this is what I'm here for. So they actually end up clicking Stomping Tantrum, which is great for me. Gotta be careful about my mouth. Don't ever really want to risk that now that I know that this thing has that for sure. But this again gives me more U-turn positioning. Cinderace is going to come out, which we'll take. As Rotom Wash is going to be the pivot of choice, they're going to go into their Ogerpon as I click Hydro Pump. Unfortunately miss. A little bit unfortunate because like chip on this is always like really, really nice for a Pokemon like Microscore to do better. Again, the Tusk has to be, you know, something we account for, but yeah, definitely unfortunate. Serena's going to come out here on yet another Ivy Cudgel. They do get a crit, but no biggie. I am going to take the turn to go ahead and synth up. I'm okay with Zapdos coming in right now because I know this isn't like super threatening with my Gliscor. Now, again, they could have Hurricaned and done a lot of damage, but I would have outsped, got a big hit off, and if them Hurricaning or U-turning means they don't roost with this thing, which is really nice for Pokemon like Moon, Pokemon like Moth that can't initially kill it, and things like that. So, they're going to make the decision to U-turn right here as I go out into my, and they go out into their Ogerpon. Make a cool little double here as I go into my Serena. I'm giving them pretty good offensive positioning. I do still have a full health Rotom though, so I can go ahead and use that now. As I click Substitute here, and the other thing that's super scary with Sub in Libero is going to be if it's like double edge, but if it's like double edge, it takes recoil plus some Scarf and I break the Sub and I force it out the next turn. So it's all good information to know. I'm chipping it down more than I would have, right? If it just attacked and then switched. Plus that high jump kick does nothing because it's non-stab now. And knowing that I just showed Choice Scarf, I make the play into Serena. This double covers both Great Tusk coming in as well as Ogerpon coming in. So either one I'm completely fine with. It elects to be Ogerpon, and again, to get off a nice little U-turn. We are risking static a lot with this, but what can you do? Next, I'm going to go into Iron Moth, and showing that this thing showed like super offensive, I'm actually going to get an Iron Moth and just click Overheat right here. It has to be like max FDF to even have a chance to live an Overheat from 51, so I'm pretty okay taking those odds. Nothing really switches into Overheat at this point. We do get a crit, but I don't think it mattered. I never saw their pace afterwards, but I really doubt that they're max FDF Zapdos. But the only thing that takes an Overheat at this point is something like a Primarina, and I think Cinderace can take one from where it's at, but other than that, we're doing good. So yeah, Great Tusk comes out and is going to be booster attack there, so good information to know. I'm gonna hard switch out. There's no reason for me to bluff that I'm not bluff that I'm Scarf or Specs or whatever it is. They click bulk up, and this is where I kind of tweak a little bit. They're gonna go ahead and Terra Grass immediately and bulk up again. My play here is to always U-turn. It is always to U-turn. They are forced into a Terra turn. I U-turn out, I get into Moth, and I kill something. For some unknown reason, I click Power Whip. Now, why is this bad? Because my opponent elects to bulk up for a third time, which they really didn't need to do. They either like can kill my Serena, or they can use this as an opportunity to rapid spin up, and I don't really have much for that in regards to speed. I don't have a Scarfer faster than a +1 like offensive Tusk. My play from there would have been U-turn on the rapid spin. He takes Helmet plus U-turn. I go out into Tarop. I have to bait, I think, one more turn of Helmet on Serena, one or two. If I do that, then from there, I can potentially go into Tarop, live one with Terra Shell, and kill it with Starstorm, but I don't even think that's a guaranteed sequence. So I could have just lost here by me clicking Power Whip like a psycho for no reason on that turn before. Thankfully, they do end up bulking up a third time, so we mind controlled a little bit. We'll take it. We got mind controlled earlier this season against Yehoodles, and we mind controlled our opponent a little bit there because that bulk up was just wrong. If they spun, I think they like had a real chance of winning. I'm gonna go to Moth right here. Just force them out. I believe I do just click Fire Dance. I calced even max HP Tusk like gets blown up, but it's not gonna be max HP. You know, we were fine. We were fine. They're gonna go ahead and flip turn as and take a little bit of Helmet Chip here. I figured this might be like some kind of AV or Kevia, being that hard switching on my Moth, and I don't even kill most Prims anyways, so. Or I don't kill all Prims with that Sludge Wave because of that, so I figured just going into Serena and using it to resist water could be beneficial. They end up just flip turning, which is really good for me. So, good information to have. Great Tusk comes back out, but now I have learned the error of my ways. I can always just go ahead and click U-turn on this thing because I have Tarop to go ahead and revenge this. Otherwise now, it takes Helmet, plus it takes a U-turn, takes 28%. This is guaranteed to Tarop range very comfortably. I go into Tarop and I click it. If they go Mischievous, they go Mischievous, right? We got to leverage our Terra Shell to not lose to Great Tusk because it's very strong. They're going to go into Mischievous, but again, I'm okay with that. I need to make sure I guard against not just losing to that guy. I'm going to go into my Rotom because I think like Thunderwave or Will-O-Wisp is pretty likely. Willow isn't bad here, but Thunderwave seems a lot better, being that I already have like my Gliscor there, and it can just kind of like hex me. And what do you call it? Thunderwave like really slows down Tarop and makes it pretty much useless. It also like slows down Pokemon like Moon, Moth, things like that. It just seems like the better status here. Plus, if they Willow, whatever, I don't really take too much of an issue with that. This Cinderace, I'm not super worried about it, being that I saw it set. And I can threaten this thing with like a potential trick. And because of that, I'm actually going to go ahead and Volt Switch, calling the other opponent to want to come out, so this Mischievous doesn't because calling this Mischievous doesn't want to lose its item. We're going to go into Ogre or Serena on the Ogre Pawn as it reveals Swords Dance as I just U-turn. Again, totally fine, because what this does is it guaranteed puts it into Moon range. You just click Acro. Acro covered like a Psycho, switch into Prim. It'll give us a 2 KO pretty comfortably. Prim comes out here, and while I could save this, I don't really see an opportunity to set this thing up. We're already in. We might as well put Prim guaranteed in range of Iron Moth. Like, guaranteed in range of it. Like, no doubt about it. So, I just click Acro, do a ton of damage. It reveals Citrus, so even better. We don't have to worry about our Iron Moth not killing at all. We can just go into it and click Sludge Wave. There's really not much they can do. Mischievous does technically resist the move, obviously, but I'm not super worried about Mischievous in general. Missy comes out here. I'm going to U-turn again, not wanting to get Thunder Wave. We're going to go into Serena because Serena's job is kind of done. This Great Tusk is very low. We just need to not let it like Rapid Spin plus like bulk up to 1 million. We still have our Shell on our Terapagos to leverage against that. And Serena can always just knock off an item, right? Tusk can come out, whatever. Cinderace can come out, good knock for us, does a decent amount of damage. And then Mischievous can't tear anymore, so it doesn't take this hit. They actually end up clicking a faster Pain Slit, which just doesn't do anything. I'm going to go ahead and click Knock Off, do 46%. And then we're just going to start clicking Power Whip. If anything else comes out in the back, whether it be Tusk or the Cinderace, we miss right there, but no biggie. We can always just click it the next turn. So they take a little bit of Helmet Chip, do them more than they're healing back, and we knock it out. From here, we can just U-turn. If Cinderace comes out, U-turn is always my best play. If Tusk comes out, same thing. Bulk Up gives me Moth. Spin gives me Terap, and we can kind of, handle this accordingly. So I'm just going to click Sludge Wave on this Great Tusk. I could have Fire Dance to get the boost, but no biggie. They end up subbing down with their Cinderace, trying to put themselves in range or punish a switch or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. This game is absolutely locked because they end up showing Salic, so I'm wondering if it's like random SD. Regardless, it's Acro here, actually. I forgot about that. I just know I lived whatever it hit because it wasn't Zen Headbutt. And that's the only way we die there as well, to Cinderace. So you might as well just stay and attack it. But yeah, we're able to win. Not my cleanest game. I know the score says 5-0, but I'm not super happy with that. I think I super tweaked into the Great Tusk, and that was not very good of me. Because I totally could have lost if it was played a little bit more efficiently. So got a lot of work to still do going into playoffs. Got to be smart. We got semifinals next week. I'm not sure if we're gonna be the 1 or the 2 seed. I think it's pretty much guaranteed that we're one of those two after the way the other games and my game have gone at this point. Yeah, it's officially lock-in season, baby, and I'll see you guys for semifinals. RDL, here we are. DFL semis. If I'm a little low energy, I apologize. It's very late at night. It's about 10:45 when I'm recording this. Playing my game at 11. I actually just got home from the Demon Slayer movie with my little brothers and a buddy of mine, so that was a lot of fun. I'm definitely a little tired. 11 o'clock is not ideal for a game. My opponent's waking up at 8 a.m., so we're both going to be tired. It's a very even exchange in my mind. But you'll see we're playing against Ultraviolet, or I believe her name is Manu, if I'm saying that right. They seem like a nice person, and they have great taste in a team because they have a very, very similar comp to ours, with kind of like the same offensive core with like Terap, Moon, Moth, Gliscor, and then like a Spiker and Quillfish. Water Resistant Sinister, which would have been a little bit nicer than my Serena. The Steel type and like the Dragon and Fairy Check is going to be Jirachi on the team, which is a little bit better. They have Ampharos, which is kind of like a budget flying resist on a team like this, which is, always, decently nice. But as for the matchup itself, obviously the spreads aren't going to be too crazy because we kind of got a lot of the same offensive guys, which means they're going to be running max pretty often, so we'll see how that ends up going. Let's go ahead and look at the team that we ended up bringing this one. Things I was struggling with in this matchup in particular, I was really struggling with Terapagos. I don't have like a great defined switch into Terapagos. It's kind of a matter of like having a pivot, breaking shell, and being able to revenge it after it kind of gets the ball rolling a little bit. Iron Moth is another Pokemon I don't particularly switch well into. Opposing SD Gliscor can maybe be annoying depending on what the Terra typing is in this matchup. So, all things to keep in mind. First, we just kind of have a pretty simple Rock Polish 3 attacks Terapagos. I think this thing can super win in an endgame scenario. I like Rock Polish a lot more than Spin because Spin is blocked by Sinistra. It can definitely be Spidef Sinistra in this matchup. And as well as like Rock Polish gives you something faster than like Booster Speed Moon or Rock Ball or like a Rapid Sponge Terapagos or something like that. A Booster Speed Moth, things of the sort. We have great neutral coverage in this game. Terra Starstorm, Ice Beam, Earth Power, and Rock Polish. Pretty simple stuff. We're running max just to tie the other Terapagos. If it comes down to a 1v1 scenario, want to be able to take that guy on. Then we have a Choice Scarf Roaring Moon, Outrage Knockoff Dragon Claw U-Turn. Our Roaring Moon is a lot better than their Roaring Moon because we have a Klefki and they don't. There's actually no Dragon immunity on this team, so Dragon Claw is pretty free. The one Dragon Resistance is going to be something like Jirachi, so if you can get rid of said Jirachi and there's no Terra Fairies, Outrage endgame is very, very likely. And again, it's just a strong, fast Pokemon that can do a lot of damage. So that's what we're going to roll with. Then we have a Klefki. You're a Shuka Berry just to guarantee take one from like Roaring Moon. +1 Fire Fangs can be annoying, but we should be able to take them, especially alongside Reflect. We have Thunder Wave just to pair the things that kind of bully us, things like Moth, things like Tarot. Dazzling Gleam for general damage and things like Moon, and then we have Spikes because Spikes are really good here. Being able to Spike stack my opponent is going to be really, really nice. Then we have our Gliscor, which is kind of the star of the show here. We are a Terra Normal set finally. First time we're bringing that. And we are Double Dance. Facade, Knockoff, Swords Dance, Agility. Who would have thought? Pretty darn bulky on this thing. The raw power that we get from +2 Terra Normal Facade is ridiculous. I mean, we get unbelievably powerful, meaning we really don't need a lot of attack investment. I toyed around with a lot with offensive sets and it just really wasn't worth it. There's these bulky sets that allow us to facilitate that Double Dance a lot easier, which is nice. There's also endgames where like just SD will win, right? If it's just like their Gliscor and down left. Just Agility can win against like a chip down offensive build, things like that. We have a Terra Fairy Moth, though I don't expect to Terra it. We are Meteor Beam on this set. Agility, Meteor Beam, Dazzling, and Flamethrower. Still very strong offensively, to be completely honest with you. Like, does a ton of damage to the opposing team. Meteor Beam is great for the opposing Moth. And yeah, we just do a ton of damage in general. And then we have a Spadef Rotom Wash here. It's kind of our main pivot into like Drop and Moth. We can take any 2 hits pretty comfortably, besides like a Terra, Grass. Terra Grass it from the Iron Moth, sorry. That also means the Gliscor isn't tearing, which is pretty nice for us. But yeah, we are Hydro Pump, Volt Switch, Thunder Wave, and Hex. Hex is nice for like neutral, like maybe like a Terra Dragon Gliscor for some reason. Or some typing that resists, water and electric, maybe like a Terra Grass or something. Not that I think those are likely, it's nice to hit those, but it's mostly nice for things like Sinistcha. Sinistcha comes in, takes like a Thunder Wave. Later on in the game, if it's in range or we want to keep it low, we can go ahead and hex it. So and do a decent chunk of damage, So yeah, that's the general idea for the team. I think right now we're kind of down bad in the series. I think we're down either 0-2 or 0-3. I'm not 100% sure on what the series score is. I know we're not doing great though, so we definitely need to win this one and put our team back on track. Alrighty, here you are. Good old rematch, or good old mirror match. Sorry, not rematch. It'd be a rematch for playing Yahoo's. It looks like Manu has a Terra Fairy Iron Moth, which makes sense here, especially into the opposing moon, which is so strong in them, and then a Terra Dragon Gliscor. I did play like an SD Scale Shot Gliscor in Mox, so I could definitely see something similar maybe popping up here. Definitely potentially really annoying, but not the end of the world. Feeling pretty confident about this one. We're just going to go ahead and lead off with our moon and go to town and see what we can do. So we're going to lead moon as we see lead Tarot. This makes me think maybe lead like Toxic Tech, something like that, especially with leftovers. We're going to U-turn, see if this thing is pretty darn offensive based on the damage that we did. It's actually going to be red card and send us out into our Rotom, which is completely fine for us. We're going to take a Terra Starstorm, and from here I'm just going to Thunder Wave, give myself the most odds humanly possible to chip this thing down without taking any damage. But it is going to take some resources from us, right? We don't immediately break this Pokemon very well. We don't have like an offensive fighting that can really deal with it at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and T-Wave this thing. I will get off a pump before I go down, but we are going to go down to a Starstorm right here. So that goes Rotom, but did its job, right? Got this thing down to 64. Unfortunately, this is an Outrage range, and I don't want to Outrage because what that does is it lets Moth in, Terra Fairy Gleam, my moon's dead. So even though like Outrage is a roll here, what I can do instead is I can Terra my Gliscor, Swords Dance. If they get paired, I get a free SD off and I kind of go to town. If not, I do live one Timid Starstorm from here, guarantee that +1. So I'm going to go ahead and SD up as that Timid Starstorm just pop. It's a lot of damage, 93%. I can't just Facade there either, by the way, and like 2-hit KO because I don't have my orb popped yet. Thankfully, we weren't crit or anything like that. We're able to knock out the Strabgo. So it did take a lot of, resources to knock this thing out, but honestly, it was one of the biggest threats to my team. I didn't have like a designated answer to Strabgo. So I'll take the, the lead like weird red card set. We're gonna get a little bit of Poison Heal. We can say this is a sack or maybe a Pokemon that can get some Poison Heal back later. Maybe throw a knockoff on Sinistcha. I don't know. It's really realistically going to be a sack at this point, being that we don't have Protect to get lefties up or Poison Heal up. But hey, what can you do? We're going to go ahead and pivot out into our Klefki. Opponent does just make a knockoff play. They get a crit right there. A bit unfortunate. Does a lot of damage to our Klefki. Is not a very bulky Pokemon. I'm going to go ahead and Reflect, because what Reflect does, it does give me 2 turns potentially. Now this is a roll to kill me with EQ through Reflect, but at least I end with a Spike and Reflect up, and I can deal with it accordingly. So they are just going to risk me just gleaming them as they decide to Brick Break. I figured maybe not taking that damage would be a little bit better, but hey, not the end of the world. They do get up a second Spike here, so I am going to go down to a Brick Break. No reason to try and throw up a second Reflect. 2 spikes isn't super optimal, but not the end of the world. I'm just going to Dragon Claw right here. Again, this Moth can come out and just kind of hit us really hard with a, what do you call it? Dazzling Gleam, and just knock us out if we lock Outrage right here. So no point. I know that Dragon Claw does kill Moon guaranteed. We do a lot to this guy, showing that it's pretty offensive. I am going to go ahead and go into my Gliscor and just use the sack piece right here, as it does reveal to be Scale Shot right here. It does end up getting 4 hits. Knocking out our Gliscor, really, I'm fine with it knocking us out. If anything, lets us reposition a little bit better. I'm going to go into my Terapagos right here. I know that Ice Beam is going to be strong into this thing regardless. It's not boosted, so it's not going to be able to 2-hit KO me. If it Terra Dragons, they waste their Terra. It means their Moth can't Terra, and my like Outrage endgame is super nice, or even my knockoff endgame is super nice, potentially. And if they don't Terra, then they die. So that's obviously really good. They're just going to go ahead and EQ right here, does a little bit of chip, and I'm going to go ahead and just click Ice Beam, knock this thing out from full. Very nice. Next up, Roaring Moon comes out. Don't really have a great switch into this thing. I'm just going to take my damage. I'm going to Starstorm in case it's a random weakness policy. Or no, I Ice Beam. I lied. As it's not random weakness policy, thankfully. It is going to knock us out right here. I guess Starstorm probably would have just been a better play right there, to be honest with you, because they do the same amount of damage. I guess Ice Beam gives me freeze chance, which would have been nice, because then I could Rock Polish up and do some damage. But regardless, I'm going to go into Moon, and my opponent actually elects to sack this thing off here, which is really good, because not only does this really open up knockoff endgame, especially once I can handle this Terra Fairy Moth, it opens up my own Moth. Now the only thing that can potentially outspeed me is their own Iron Moth, a Sinister that can't really do damage to me. I understand it has Heat Proof, but it can't really do damage to me. If it's like Weakness Policy, Trick Room, I'm not super worried about playing around that. I have 2 Pokemon that resist its stabs, or I guess 1 Pokemon that resists stabs, and another Pokemon that resists Matcha, so I can just kind of clean it down, so I'm not super worried about that. And then a Jirachi, which I outspeed and Smoke, with both of my Pokemon. So honestly, this was incredible. This thing being sacked was awesome for my Moth, and for making my locks a little bit more safe on my Roaring Moon. I guess I probably would have done to knock anyways. It's more so that the Moth was super free here. I'm going to go on to my Moth here, obviously, as I have to, as they go into their Iron Moth. And right here, I'm kind of in a position like, okay, maybe we can switch out, Scout and the Moon, but then I'm kind of in an uncomfortable spot. I can let Agility happen, I just lose. We kind of just have to let rip. If they're not Meteor Beam themselves, they cannot do anything to OHKO my Moth, and my Moth OHKOs them, as well as puts crazy damage on the rest of this team. And bare minimum, if we get to +1, start throwing off +1 Flamethrowers, even if this thing Terra Fairies, it's not going to be able to stay out of range of Moon for long. So I am just going to Meteor Beam. We do win a speed tie, which is incredible. As long as this hits, we do knock this thing out and basically seal the game. And it hits the left. You know, what can you do? Psychic Pops, like I said, nothing can OHKO me though, and this definitely doesn't OHKO me, which is a little bit unfortunate. Like, okay, whatever. We just need to put damage on this Iron Moth. That's all we need to do to potentially lock this up with Moon. We are going to go ahead and just click Flamethrower. They Terra this turn for some reason, which they probably, if anything, should have Terra'd the turn before to guard against that one OHKO move. I guess, like, if they thought I was going to Sludge Wave, then you don't want to Terra Fairy. I'm not quite sure. But they are going to Terra here, and they unfortunately win the speed tie. So I can't even get off that +1 Flamethrower, which I'm not sure if that killed, but it definitely puts in a range of knockoff. They're going to go ahead and get knocked off here. Still take 8 billion%. It's Custat Berry and not even Gleam. It's just like a defensive typing here. I'm going to knock again as they Sludge Wave. Get a high roll to kind of send it off. And yeah, we lost that one. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not super upset. I mean, like, I was upset at the time. I definitely was pissed. Look, you can see me pissed. But, like, I'm not upset with myself. My opponent mispositioned, and I was ready to win the game. And it just didn't happen. Like, you know, what can you do? The miss, or the Moon Sack into the miss, into the speed tie loss when they tweaked and Terra'd, when they should have Terra'd the... What can you do? Again, like, literally, what can you do? That's just Pokemon. There's nothing you can do. I know up to this point, we've been getting pretty unlucky in the series. I think that puts us down 0-3. Our other 2 games, I don't watch them, so I'm not going to say, like, we got hacked out, because I'm not 100% sure. But from what I've heard, what the sentiment is we've gotten pretty unlucky. And then I know a game that we were in a really good position to win. The servers just crashed during the game, so they have to replay. I just don't think it's in the cards for us to win this series, unfortunately. They paid someone off on the Showdown team. But that's life. If we do end up pulling this back, one, that'd be so funny. And I'll be back with another battle. If not, we'll do a little outro. But yeah, we'll see you in a couple days. Alrighty, y'all, here we are. End of the season. Unfortunately, we did not come out on top in semifinals. We actually did end up bringing it back to a tiebreak, which is crazy. Like, first 4 games, we got super hoed. Last 4 games, we clawed it back. But we did unfortunately lose in the tiebreak, and that was actually a pretty clean, like, 3-game set. We just kind of lost the games we lost and won the game we won. That happens. I'm pretty happy with the season, though. You can see the team itself did very, very well. We were the 2 seed. We went 5-1-1. Just missed it on the 1 seed based on, like, a game difference, right? So arguably, I mean, second best team, right? But arguably one of the better teams. I'm very happy with my season in particular. We went 6-1 during the regular season, 6-2 overall. I don't know if it like counts playoffs on the dock. Obviously, we lost our last game in semifinals, which is tough. It happens, but I'm not super upset with how I played in semifinals, if that makes sense. I mean, you guys obviously saw the video. I think we won that game pretty comfortably. We just hit that meteor beam and the game's over. But hey, that's Mons, that's life. We got pretty lucky in one of our games, I think. I forget. This tournament's been like 2 months. So, you know, that's Pokemon. Big shouts to, you know, Nathan and Money Guy for drafting me. I hope this kind of helped myself out in like my own stock and potentially getting drafted in bigger tours than this. You know, getting drafted in like DPL or DCL, like, you know, the bigger version of this. I'm pretty happy with how I played. Draft-wise, I really, really enjoyed my team that I used all season. It was the... where is it? I gotta drag this over so you guys can actually see it. It's our SV4 team right here. Tarap, Roaring Moon, Iron Moth, Gliscor, Klefki, Rotom Wash, Hitsugin Avalugg, and Serena. Team went 6-1 overall. I believe Skyhops used it week 1 and got a win with it. And then we went 5-1 with it total. Then we won a game with our SV5 as well right there, which ended up changing a lot at mids. It wasn't the team that I used really, to be honest with you. Like there's most of the core pieces that I used in that battle are actually still there, but you know, some of the supporting pieces it changed a little bit. Pretty happy though. Played a lot of good players too, like a lot of the better players on opposing teams, things like that. Like at week 1, we played against Shade with SV5, and Shade was the most expensive player on the tour, and we were the second most expensive. So we definitely, like, you know, had a tough schedule. Didn't just kind of skate along on good matchups and good players. It's pretty tough matchups. Was very happy with how we built, and yeah, you'll see we actually end up drafting not a similar team, but it inspired me to draft Gliscor again because I really loved Gliscor. I think Terra Gliscor is incredible. I've always been a big Terra Iron Moth fan. Tarap, first time I got to use it, and absolutely was enamored with it. I thought it was incredible. And it was good fun. It was good fun. So let me know if you guys enjoyed this. A little bit more of like an in-depth look at like these like team tournament style, you know, or these like movie style videos. We kind of like went a little bit more in depth on the builds. Lots more cuts and things like that. It'll probably be a very, very long video. But if I play in like, you know, big tournaments like this in the future and you'd like prefer to see it like this opposed to like our quick recap style that we've done in the past, let me know. Big shout out to Money Guy Nathan again. Thank you for drafting me. Thank you for another team. Shout out to my team as well. Bunch of nice guys, nice fellas. And yeah, hopefully next time we do something like this, it's on a bigger stage and we do even better. So yeah. Now, granted, too, if I end up like getting picked up in like a DCL or DPL, I'm not gonna play 7 weeks, right? Like I'm definitely, you know, we're still growing as a player, and I have the humility to admit that I'm not like a starting player in one of those tournaments yet. Definitely an off the bench guy. So those videos will probably be a little bit shorter because we probably wouldn't be playing as much. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and yeah, I appreciate you watching this whole video. Put a lot of work into obviously this whole season, so I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on the vid, and I'll see you next time. Later.